There's a distance between us. It's getting hard to reach out. Haven't seen you in seasons, but all I hear is your voice. I know my limits, you can break me down, but I'll stay till the finish line. And I've been counting minutes for quite some time now, just to see you again. And I've been counting days to get away, to see you again, see you again. Been fighting ways to get away, to see you again, see you again. We got millions of reasons to let it all go. Hope we're not too broken. I know I'm not always strong, and I've been counting days to get away, to see you again, see you again. Been fighting ways to get away, to see you again, see you again. Traveling the mountains just to find the loudest seas. We set down by the fire, knowing we could aim higher, but we didn't know that yet. So if you want something to hold on to, gotta find it first. But here I am, 'cause I've been laying under palm trees waiting for the summer, knowing there's nowhere to go. 'Cause I am happy on this island, wanna be my farmland. I don't ever want to leave, I'm in a tropic club. trying to hold on to, gotta find it first. But here I am, 'cause I've been laying under palm trees, waiting for the summer, knowing there's nowhere to go. 'Cause I am happy on this island, wanna be my farmland. I don't ever want to leave, I'm in a tropic club.
Hello everybody and welcome back to the action of the Wuhan Open, as now we welcome the brand new world number one. But who of these two players is he going to be the newly crowned world number one for the time being Zhao Xington, as he's now 2,000 worth of ranking points ahead of Neil Robertson, the man in second place. And well, if there was going to be a showdown to see who's going to be on top of the rankings at the end of the week in Wuhan, there is certainly going to be a showdown here after both Selby and Trump were eliminated off the Wuhan Open earlier today. The winners of that match, Chang Minyu and Ronnie O'Sullivan, are not going to be a threat towards the top 10 for the time being, but these two are certainly going to try and make their way towards the world number one spot. Plenty of action to see in between the two players, and I'm pretty sure their first match, the first time in this season where we've had two players to face off against each other twice already in the first three tournaments, because Zhao Xington and Neil Robertson have played against each other already, and that match wasn't something that Neil Robertson was going to try and put on his wall. That was a 6-0 defeat that Zhao Xington was able to breeze past him in the Shanghai Masters of the quarterfinals to get himself through to the semi-final, which he didn't manage to win against Karen Wilson though. Can't see Robertson winning because Xington is obviously an opponent he struggles with. I agree with that, but listen, just because Robertson has never beaten Xington doesn't mean that he won't do it now. He has never beaten him in a ranking event. They've met in the final last season in what I call the exhibition tournament in Saudi, where Xington was able to beat Robertson by 5 frames to 2. They've also met at the English Open in 2019, and as I say, they have also played against each other at the Shanghai Masters earlier this season, right at the start of it. So, you know, it will be very much down to a chance for someone like Zhao Xington to try and extend that thing. And yeah, mute mode. I hope it's not me once again, but if you are watching this one, thank you very much. Neil Robertson only beat Zhao Xington once, and that was a Championship League format match. Besides that, Robertson really struggles against Zhao. Zhao has beaten him every time besides that, yes. As I say, it will be great for Zhao Xington to try and get himself to another semi-final, but I'm not sure it's going to mean as much to him as it will to Robertson, because I think there is going to be a point of realization where he's going to realize that he will get the number one spot of Robertson anytime soon, because he is, you know, he's only came back from the tour this time 2 years ago, so he would have been right at the bottom of the tour card. So therefore, I don't really think Xington cares about it as much as he would have if he would have been someone like Weezer. For him, it's going to be an incredible achievement to do so at 22 or 23 years of age. But I think for Robertson, it's going to mean a lot more, because I think, listen, if you're being honest to yourself and if you're being realistic, this is the best chance and the last chance that Neil Robertson will have of getting the number 1 spot. And the reason why I say that is in 3 points actually. Wuhan, Zhao Xington and Saudi. Let's start with Zhao Xington. As I said, he came back to the tour pretty much 2 years ago, a little bit later than that. So there's still not been 2 years since he's come back from the tour. And he was fighting through qualifiers into majority of those tournaments. But he doesn't have any ranking points to defend until the end of the season at the Crucible. Yes, he's got 500,000 that he'll lose, but I think he's got as much of a chance of gaining 500,000 before that point as he has got of trying to get very far at the Crucible as well. So we'll see what's going to happen, but Weezer gone downhill a bit after winning the Worlds. Yes, Stephen, I agree, but as much as I think he is overhyped, I think it's a little bit unfair to be saying that now, because we've seen exactly the same thing with Zhao Xington. He wins the Crucible. It's genuinely a copy and paste from what happened to Zhao Xington and what's happening to Weezer. They're even getting eliminated at the same stage. Shanghai Masters semi-final to Karen Wilson, or Zhao Xington, semi-final of Shanghai Masters to Judd Trump a year later for Weezer. Then first round loss in China Open, pretty much a third round loss in Saudi Arabia for Zhao Xington and Weezer. Then you've got Wuhan Open. Zhao Xington loses in the second round. Weezer loses in the first round. So, that is genuinely a repeat of it. And we haven't seen anything great from Zhao Xington until the International Championship, where he managed to get himself to the semi-final last season. But we'll see. Maybe Weezer is going to be able to kick into form before that time, maybe later. But he is a bit of a weird one because the way that he plays the game, he does remind you of a lot better of a version of Luca Brissell. He's very much basing his game around trying to pop balls rather than trying to get the position to be sorted out, which, is understandable, but at the same time, he will be down to it as well. When Zhao won the Worlds, he kept going winning tournament after tournament. Yeah, but he's done that in the second part of the season, though, has he? He didn't do that. He won Crucible in 2025. He hasn't done nothing for the remainder of 2025. All his 3 ranking wins came in 2026. Yes, he's beaten Robertson in the final of the Saudi exhibition tournament, but realistically, first to 4 tournaments, which has got no credibility, which features the best 8 players, there's got absolutely no reason for me to be saying that was the best of Zhao Xington. And he's played well in 26. He's managed to win 3 tournaments. I don't think anyone has won more than a tournament so far in 2026. In fact, I'm pretty sure with that. If you talk about ranking events, nobody's certainly done that. And even if you talk about invitational events, we've seen Zhao to win 3. We've seen Weezer win 1. Selby win 1. Trump to win 2 now, if you count the invitational with German Masters and the Shanghai Masters. But anyway, talk about the match. The match is now underway. I never noticed the comparison to Brissell, to be honest. You have a good eye for detail. Yeah, but it's just understandable, to be fair, because when you think about the way that Brissell got himself into winning that tournament, he wasn't really all down to, I'm the best player, I play the best shots for me. That's what he's always about, as Neil Robertson might have to sharpen his safety game a little bit. He clearly hasn't watched what happened to Barry Hawkins. It's a long shot available, and Zhao Xington usually doesn't miss those, and he's not going to miss one here. He gets a nice little kiss of the red, nearly got 2 in 1, and he's put a red over the corner. Well, as I say, I think Robertson needs to sharpen up very quickly, because I'm not going to make any more silly predictions after saying that, O'Sullivan's going to lose 5-0 to Selby. But I think if Zhao plays well, I think the only thing about Zhao that you have to mention is that he had a very, very, very strange period in a match against Barry Hawkins. Similar to the period that O'Sullivan had, but he sort of came away playing well in the first frame, all right in the second frame, horrible in the third frame, even worse in the fourth frame, terrible for the start of the fifth frame as well, and then he sort of skyrocketed to the top again, which was weird, but maybe he was just not feeling well, maybe it was down to the equipment or anything else. You'll hope to try and put that behind him. Although, same old there, it would seem. Underplayed for the red to be taken into the right corner. May have to go for the one which I said he put over the middle. But the fact that he's not taking that one yet probably suggests that he's not interested in the line. And yeah, I mean, look at Brazil. As I say, he has not really done anything apart from reaching the Shanghai Masters final in 2023. And I don't think he's won any ranking tournaments after that. And, last season he got himself through to the quarterfinal of the English Open, which was by far the best that we've seen of Luca. Zhao to win this game. We'll see. I think he should, but doesn't mean that there is not going to be a room for Robertson to try and do something well. With Zhao Xington getting himself out of position straight away, tried to go for that red at the end, in towards the right middle, but missed out on it. Played it with power, which made the accuracy even lower. Now bounced that red to the safe place, but, since he was playing for the black, where the black, there's going to be another red available, and Robertson is going to take that chance, thank you very much. Yeah, I think it's always important for a player to start well, especially for a player that is a good front runner, which I think both of the players are, but one thing that I would actually give more credit to Robertson, I think he's more intelligent than Zhao Xington in the way that he takes the game, and he doesn't panic. I think he very rarely goes into panic mode. I think it's obviously down to the age, but also down to the experience. Both world champions on one occasion. I think Robertson, of course, still at this stage won a lot more than Zhao has, but once again, down to different length of their careers. But if Robertson gets himself a good start, that's probably the only way that he can win. There's two ways for me Robertson can win this match. Either he starts off really well and manages to hold on to that lead, or we're going to see Zhao to start well and then completely evaporate into playing horrible snooker, and then that's when Robertson is going to come into place. But nobody said that Robertson can't have his own form to be introduced. It's that we just haven't really seen that form to be thriving there. And Robertson trying his best to mess up a positional play despite having 4 reds available. I'll tell you what, he's done pretty well to do that. And of course, in a negative way, he genuinely has messed up the position as bad as he could have. He's still on the red to the middle, but first of all, it's not the easiest shot for you to be taking, but also how close the cue ball is to the red. Still needs a little bit of work, and that's front jaw. That's unforgiving. Stephen Hendry would be fuming with him there. Well, both of the mistakes were very amateur and bad there. I think Xington's was probably worse, because his one, he genuinely didn't have any sort of problem that he ran into. But in the end, Robertson was probably about as bad there for how, his shot was still there, but he just wasn't able to take it. Now then Zhao comes back to the table, but listen, as I say for Robertson, I think he needs to be very sharp from the beginning. I think Xington can afford to be losing a frame or two, because even though anything is possible in this match, yeah, but I think the start is going to be what it comes down to, because if Xington gets a good start, then Robertson, whatever he thinks about himself, he's going to have to rely on the downgrade. Because if Zhao gets a good start, I think no matter how well Robertson plays, if Xington plays all right, I don't think there's going to be a match in between the two players. I think Robertson might be able to make it close, but I don't think he'll be able to win. But if he plays well and he gets himself an opening frame on the board, that's every bit as possible. This match sounds intriguing already a lot. Wish I could watch it streaming live. Well, I mean, once again, it depends on where you're watching it from. Because it comes down to what kind of subscription do you need. But for now, it's looking good for Zhao Xington, and he's going to have to send the cue ball into the reds very, very soon. And I think it's going to be now. Lovely little pace. Not a great traction on the cue ball, but as I say, the pace did the work there, and also the line that he had. The contact was poor, but the red that he hit was very important for him to hit, because he sort of pushed one of the reds away and into the right middle. So that was the red that Zhao Xington has now taken, and the remaining 4, if you take them in the right order, I think they're not going to be a lot of an issue there for Zhao Xington. But once again, this is the match which you would absolutely expect to be sub 3 hours. I think it's going to have to be a lot of a struggle from both of the players' point of view for this to be longer than 3 hours, which we have seen a match like that beforehand. But for now, it's Zhao Xington that he's looking to try and test his positional play skills. Norwich United Kim. Yeah, he should be able to do that from the, from the TNT then. Why was coming? Well, listen, I'm not going to make the same mistake for a while now. After what I've seen with Ronnie, certainly learned the lesson. Nothing is impossible, so you have to put some respect on Robertson's name. He has played all right since, he was getting himself towards the start of the season. Had some good performances, had some horrible performances as well. And Zhao, I'm not sure that was the way that he's seen that shot to try and get the red into the open play, but I suppose if you get the result, it doesn't matter how you got there. You're not doing A levels on your maths on this occasion. You just have to focus about getting the cue ball in the right place, and the journey that it takes for it to be there. It's not going to matter when the end result is there. As now the shot on the pink should free up 2 more reds available there for Zhao, and he's nicely positioned on one of them. The second will be prevented from the ping to be taken towards the left corner. So now 47 points of a difference and 67 at the table. So he needs 2 more reds there, Zhao, and at that stage he should be more than 51 points clear. I hope Neil doesn't go back to his 23-24 form. I've noticed he hasn't had the fight in him of late. It's a little bit harsh, I think. I think a snooker player should always have the fight. I think Robertson has not been playing as well. But listen, the fact that he's here in the quarterfinal of a second ranking event in a row, I think was something that he would have been, quite happy with last season. I don't think he played well at all, apart from Saudi, which he was great. I think you have to give him a lot of credit for that Saudi performance because of the opposition that he had to be up against, and also because of how well he's played under pressure and so many deciders that he's managed to win as well, which was extra helpful. But in the end, apart from Saudi, he obviously didn't play in Wuhan because he came right after Saudi, and he decided that he's done himself enough of a justice to just sit that one out at home. Then English Open quiet, British Open quiet, and I don't think we've seen any more of him until probably the UK, maybe the Champion of Champs, where he was in the semi-final, I think, against Selby, where he lost to the eventual winner. As, by the way, whilst I'm talking, Zhao just very quietly going on about the business, just making that century, still to be alive there. It's 66 points of a break. Rooney proved today he still has it to beat Selby. Thought he struggled today, to be honest. Well, I can't tell you enough how much I thought he was going to struggle, but listen, it won't be the first time that he's proved me wrong, and I'm very happy that he has done. Full credit has to go to O'Sullivan. Probably one of the performances of the season when you think about where he was with the form and where Selby was. The current ranking event winner, playing really well in his previous matches. You might say he struggled to get over the line against Pang Jung-soo, but he did, which was the most important thing. And now, Zhao, it's taken him a while to make a century against Barry Hawkins. I'm pretty sure he's only done that in the final frame. He may be able to do the exact opposite in the first frame against Neil Robertson. As always see the players struggle with the yellow. It may be just down to them trying to eke out a bit of a gap to be lined up on the green, but every single time Ronnie goes for that yellow, and he did today, even though he didn't need it pretty much on half of those situations, I think he was always, wobbling in that pocket. But the good thing is they always drop in, as was the case with Zhao, as he now gets himself lined up with 88 points of a break. So he needs, a total clearance for 106 points of a break, and then it'll be finito for the first frame. And Neil Robertson is going to have to come away with a better performance in the second one because he had his chance. Zhao had his chance too. Neither have managed to take it, but in the end, it was a Cyclone that was able to come away with a break of 99 points. But because he's so short, he's still going to have to take a rest here, which is baffling really because the cue ball was barely in the middle of the table. And in the end, it does not cost him. So the black was thinking about it for a long time, but he decided to drop in to entertain the crowd and the fans. And it is going to be the perfect start there of Zhao, as he's now going to be down to the first frame to be won with a century break as well, as it's now Zhao 1, Neil Robertson 0. Same scoreline as Mark Williams has managed to produce, getting a break of 77 against Xiao Guodong, and Willow is now on his way towards yet another semi-final. Listen, we've had a lot of conversations, and I certainly said that a lot as well, that O'Sullivan, Williams, and Higgins will all struggle, especially what we've seen in China Open, Shanghai Masters. But Williams and O'Sullivan, they're surprising too, actually, of the three. I've managed to tell you what, I mean, I don't know what's happening with snooker in China, but where has the crowd gone? There are around, I'm trying to calculate, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, something like 30 seats in one row. There's around 10 or 15 rows or more. There's around 20 people watching the match in between Williams and Zhao. I mean, I guess it's not Selby against O'Sullivan, and it's not Zhao Xington against Neil Robertson, but I mean, you do wonder what happened with the crowd, because that issue was very much there at the China Open, but I thought, which was surprising to me, but I thought maybe it's going to be down to, the new tournaments. The tickets weren't sold, bad time of the season, but when it happens 2 tournaments in a row, and when it happens in a quarterfinal, Zhao Gudong goes for a brilliant long red to the right corner. He needs to be going for those if he needs to try and get that frame back to himself on board. Of course, remember, it was so close to being 3 or 4-0 down against Chris Wakelin, but managed to be very much winning by 4 frames to 2 at the end. China economy in big trouble. No money to watch. Well, I don't really think so. If you look at, the attendance for Zhao Xington against Neil Robertson, I mean, that is one of the biggest contrasts you can see all day. I mean, I can't believe what I'm seeing. This is going on a screenshot, by the way. It is genuinely like it is an amateur playing against an amateur, and it is Ronnie O'Sullivan in his prime playing against Stephen Hendry. That's the scale of the difference. And of course, that's with all the flatter that Neil Robertson can take. I think that's going to be down to Zhao Xington. But Williams and Zhao Gudong must be asking what have they done wrong to get 15 people to be watching them. But to be fair play to those 15 people. At least it's not empty to see. Head-to-head, Zhao 4-1 versus Robertson. Yes, but, I mean, do you really count Championship League? Because if you do, I don't. You can't really put that into the equation when it's first to 3. As Zhao Xington, once again, goes for a long raid. I mean, it's unbeatable that he tries to do that. You cannot defend against it. And, well, Robertson might have to be thinking and dreaming about the first chance that he had in that first frame, because all of a sudden, he ain't going to get any more of those, it would seem, if Zhao Xington is going to continue on playing like this. Once again, catches the wrong red, which started to be a bit of a ritual if you look at the way that he played at the Wuhan Open. But in the end, this time, it didn't cost him anything. He still had plenty more of the other reds to be available to him. And I think he's going to be looking to try and play the cue ball into the reds pretty soon. May even be now. And he lost the cue ball, but he got the reds to be spread out perfectly well away from each other. Now the question is, I think he's got 2 reds, one into the left middle, one into the left corner. The left corner is an easier shot to play, but getting an angle on the black is not going to be an easy mission for you to achieve. So I would probably expect a lot of power, and I think he was trying to get through towards the blue, but he met a red in the way. And he hasn't necessarily fallen in love with that one, because now the cue ball is going to be at a very tight angle. So I think even Zhao Xington is going to have to say no to this particular effect. And factories all got after Trump track. Well, I don't really think that's the way it works. And as I say, I think if you know a thing or two about economy, I don't really think it's done them a lot of damage. I think it's done the country that actually imposed it a lot of damage as well. But listen, there may be a new Trump tariff coming up, but there won't be any more of Wuhan Open, because Trump is already out of the question, if you know what I mean, and Chang Minyu is going to be the one to replace him. What's even more funny is Championship League is considered a ranking event, but the shootout takes the first prize for funniest, trained as ranking event especially. The problem that I've got with Championship League, I think the format is great. I have a huge problem with Championship League. Why do you play a match first to 3 frames? I mean, I complain about English, Northern Ireland's, Welsh and Scottish Open because it's first to 4, which I think is a joke, to be honest with you. But first to 3, it's laughable to me. Because when you think about matches to be finishing in 40 minutes in first to 4, I mean, I can only imagine that it will be genuinely 25 minutes before someone like Zhao Xington can beat whatever qualifier comes up in the Championship League. And I'm pretty sure he's done that. May have not taken him 25 minutes, but you know what I mean. I don't really understand the point of that. Because, yes, there's going to be more matches, but, I mean, you come there, you prepare, you think about what's going to happen, then, bam, match is over, and you're going to have to think about the next one. I mean, is there really entertainment in there? I think the snooker match should be a minimum of an hour, and I'm saying that from the consumer's point of view, because you can't obviously force them to have an hour, like where you have to be standing at the table for an hour. But what you can do is enforce the minimum frames that you play, which I think is great news. They managed to improve the home nations format, where the quarterfinals is finally now going to be one match more, which is great. But I think they need to do that all around the whole tournament until it's going to be a change which is going to be well made. As for now, Zhao Xington is just having to roll the cue towards the Reds. And about shootout, I think... Listen, I think if you compare Championship League and the shootout, I would prefer... I mean, it's an interesting one because you have to choose between the two evils. And I don't like either of them, I have to say. I think shootout is more entertaining. So if I was to choose one, I would go for the shootout, because I still think you don't see many, I'm not going to say bad players, but many players that you don't expect to win the tournament, to win the Championship League. I mean, this season it was, who was it, Jack Jones. Last season it was Mark Selby. So, Zhao Cheng final will be interesting. It will be. It won't be very long though. But Robertson will have a word to say about that, as he's thinking about going for a plant in towards the middle. This was the pocket that cost him in the previous frame, and it's going to be the pocket that cost him in this frame as well. It's exactly the same thing that he's done. This time it came from a plant, and this time around it will be down to Zhao Xington to come back from the table. Jack Lisowski 3-0, Luca Brissell 27 minutes in 2019. Thank you very much, Felsis. I really appreciate that, honestly, because that proves my point. I mean, are you going to watch tennis match in 27 minutes? I mean, you might, when Federer is playing in his prime against the qualifier, but you're not realistically going to be able to see that. And, you know, when you've got Jack Lisowski to be beating Luca Brissell 3-0 in 27 minutes, I mean, it just makes a bit of a mockery of the sport. I understand that some people would prefer a bit of a stop-start and a new match, but I just think it doesn't really do any help to the players, because you could genuinely be traveling for ages, 12 hours from one part of the world to another. Then you could have the practice time that you're putting in, and then, you know, you come to the table and you get beaten by 27 minutes. I remember once watching Championship League one year. Ronnie O'Sullivan was in the event. I had a mustache. I think it was a memory of Willie Thorne or something, but he looked strange. Yeah, he's done a lot of things with his looks there. I think that was either pre or just past COVID there, where he was experimenting with a haircut in the famous barge against Ali Carter. And the reason why I'm talking about this is, once again, I mean, we needed to see more of Robertson, unfortunately, and we're only seeing Zhao Xington. And the best part, and the worst part about it is that he absolutely did not have to work for anything here. You know, Robertson came for an opportunity. He didn't manage to take that one. Exactly the same thing has happened in the previous frame, and now all of a sudden Zhao Xington is 37 points clear, and he's very unlikely to, you know, mess up the situation with how many easy reds there are. Nobody would be able to. Agree with you. Thank you. 2-0 coming. We'll see what's going to happen, but it does seem like 2-0 of a lead is imminent, and that would of course mean around 10 frames in a row the Zhao Xington has won against Neil Robertson. If you include 6 in Shanghai Masters, if you include a couple that he's won in Saudi exhibition, then of course 4-0 at the English. I'll tell you what, winning a frame against Zhao Xington seems to be a challenge there for Robertson, and I don't say that lightly, because we've had 4-0 as Zhao there, nearly messed up, but I think he's going to be alright, especially since he's got a red at the top part of the table. So he won against him 4-0 in 2019, when he was a child basically, 7 years, well, not a child, but 22 years of age. Then, and Robertson was, you know, somewhat near his prime, nearer than now. Then he won against him 6-0. He won 5-2 against him in that Saudi thing, And now he's going to lead him by 2 frames to nil, it would seem as well. So I'll tell you what, Robertson doesn't really have a... And that's the only matches they've played against each other, haven't they? I don't think they've played any more. Once again, if you exclude the Championship League. Didn't Ronnie have long hair once, a bit like Paul Hunter? Not really that comes to mind. I mean, I'm picturing Paul Hunter and I'm picturing Ronnie O'Sullivan. Don't really match to me. But I might have missed out something. As I say, I'm not really into his looks. I'm more into his style of play. Pray for 50 of Malaysian compatriots. Yeah, I've actually seen that. So it's very, very sad to see the disaster that I think it was the flood in Nepal and Tibet, which is very, very sad there. And yeah, condolences to Peter with that one. As can't do a lot about natural disasters, but fortunately they do come in very deadly as well. And talk about, well, it's a bit of a harsh analogy, but talk about a natural disaster. I think Zhao Tong has certainly come away as a cyclone here, as he's now going to be coming away with 67 points of a lead, 67 at the table, and therefore still looking at a potential chance of trying to get himself lined up for a chance. Global warming is very true. Yeah, true. Climate change is going to be caused by that as well, and therefore he's going to cause more natural disasters. But yeah, if you talk about Xington here, then the worst thing about it is that I still think he's in gear 1. If you look at the way that he plays those shots, he seems to think about them after he played. So the way that he was playing for the blue, he clearly should have been nowhere near to be straight on it, but instead he just sort of played, you know, with not really bothering about it. And the scariest thing is that he wasn't really scoring poorly. He scored a century break in the first frame. Now he's got 63 points, and I think this red will make its way towards the corner pocket as well. So he still kept his chances alive there of making a century break, but he needs a massive shot to get the black into the corner, which he did just about, and he's also got himself into the red. So, I mean, the perfect century hunt just continues to be there for him. I mean, listen, it's hard to criticize Robertson, but you need to, because, as I say, I think Zhao Tong has spent majority of those 2 frames in gear 1 or gear 2. I was shocked last year when I went online and saw news of Graham Dott. Now he's been found guilty of waiting sensitive and remote in custody. Never thought he was capable of that. Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things in the sport. You never know what hides behind someone's face, and you know, one day you idolize them or you're a fan of them, and the next day they get found of 2 very serious charges. I think it is 2. I think there is another investigation for him for the 3rd one as well. But the fact that they're all spread out from 93 to 96, and then there's another one in 2010. You know, it is a very serious thing there, and sometimes at this stage, of course, you're going to have to say, well, the sport doesn't really matter, because, you know, it's what you do off the table that defines you as a human being. And, well, I think if you get found of such serious charges, I don't really think there is going to be any place for you in any sport, and I don't think it's a surprise. But that was a little bit of a surprise there, as Zhao Tong was unable to get himself extending that break of 91 points, and in the end misses out on the brown. I don't think it's surprising that he was excluded from the Hall of Fame, and I think, you know, very soon there is going to be a decision there, which I think WPBSA has already launched, that they want to remove him from all the, you know, what's it called, the, not commemoration, but the, like a Legends Hall of Fame, but not really that, but also just any sort of honorable mentions or any achievements that he had to his name. I think they're all going to remove that, which, you know, is completely understandable when you face a trial for such serious charges and you get found guilty of all of them. You know, it's a very serious stuff, and unfortunately that's, you know, it's the only way. You can't just ignore those charges and say, well, he was a great sportsman, because that's not how things run. I think of all the shocks in snooker, that's the most serious, even more serious than Lang Wengbo and Stephen Lee cases. Listen, I think match fixing is one thing. I think if you get, I'm not even sure of the word, the indecent behavior with someone underage, being a teenager yourself at that time, I think it's a lot more serious. I think it's very different. I don't think you can compare the two. I think Lang Wenbo and Yang Mingtao and Li Hang had very serious accusations, but one of them was on a sporting point of view, and the other is a criminal record. I think the sporting breach they had should also be a criminal record, because I'm a little bit surprised that you get banned from snooker, but I think you also should be talking about Wenbo, Liu Hang, and Bing Tao. But I think you should also get a criminal record for it. But once again, that's a very different stage. Was the right decision to remove him? Doesn't look good on the sport if they condone that behavior. Yeah, I have to say, I think, listen, if I'm being perfectly honest, I found it a little bit weird they removed him at the first place, because I thought, what if the charges weren't true? But I suppose in hindsight, now the charges have become true, and if you didn't remove them, I think it was 16 or 18 months ago, then I think you would have very serious questions towards WPBSA to be asked. So I think it was the right decision to remove him. And now of course it's proven to be very much a serious decision that they got right. And now of course Zhao's rhythm is unsettled if the games get messy. I agree to a certain extent, but I also disagree with it with the extent I think it can come away. It depends on how long he gets unsettled and how long the game is going to get messy there, because, well, listen, Robertson is struggling now. He's struggling big time. He can't get any real pace in himself, and he's got the opponent where first frame he needed 2 attempts, second frame you only need 1 attempt, and he scored 101, 106 and 91 points. So there's not a lot you can do to counter it from Robertson's point of view, as now he went for a long red, he didn't manage to take it, and he was lucky not to give any one of those 2 reds available to Zhao Xington. But I think anyone's game will get messy if you're going to find yourself to be in that position where you're not playing well. But I think with Zhao Xington, if he gets himself into the rhythm quickly, I mean, what I'm saying is, if it's going to be 1 frame, and he's spent in his seat for 20 or 30 minutes, or it's been all scrappy or a horrible safety battle, I think that's fine. If he does that for 2 or 3 frames, I think it's a lot more difficult for him to try and get back to playing well. But I think it's understandable, and I think it works pretty much for everyone else as well. So I hope he serves his full sentence, but you never know with just, well, yeah, but to be fair, you have to probably start with, the charge is clearly being confirmed, and I don't know what's the right word, but being now charged with them and having to serve a sentence. Well, certainly something that you're going to have to keep an eye on. But once again, there's not a lot you can do to monitor it, and you're just going to have to trust the authorities on there and just make sure it's all done legitimately. Great shot there from Zhao Xington, as he now puts the cue ball to be right at the top part of the table. So Robertson is not really getting an easy line there when he comes down to safety shots, although he's just played a really good shot of his own and getting the cue ball to be right above the yellow. It's an awkward shot there Zhao Xington has attempted. He didn't really want to brush off the black. And, well, let's see if he gets lucky and covers the red by the left corner. Well, the reaction of Zhao doesn't suggest that, but the reaction of Robertson still probably suggests that he has got away with it, Zhao Xington. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see if, even if he gets through to the red, what sort of cue ball control does he have when it comes down to trying to get the white lined up for the colours. And after a little back on tour now, yeah, absolutely, but rightly so. I think, you don't just get stripped of the Snooker Hall of Fame for nothing. As Robertson there clearly could see that red very nicely indeed, and now he's got a great chance of playing the blue, even though he's on the wrong side of it, and even though it's a horrible position for multiple reasons. He's got the starting point right, and I think he's going to be able to... just talking about a brilliant position, one of the misses of the tournament, for sure. It was a straightforward shot on the blue. Yes, he had to powerhouse his way through, but one thing he has to be happy about is that the position is horrible, as I say. The blue made a bit of a difference towards the reds, but the black and now the blue are going to be out of position, joining the pink. So let's see what's going to happen with Zhao Xington, that has played the shot onto the blue, And now he's going to get a little bit of fortune there to be lined up on the green, yellow and blue. So that should sort out one of the issues away. But yeah, I mean, once again, not going to make the same mistake. Robertson is doing exactly what O'Sullivan was doing in the match against Selby. And yet he didn't stop one of them to be coming back brilliantly well, winning 3 frames in a row, including this one. But we'll see if the script is going to be repeated completely. And I think we are going to have to see a massive drop-off for that to be the case from Xiaoting's point of view. Chang Minyu versus Ronnie O'Sullivan prediction. It's a very, very tough match to call, because I think about their match in Saudi, and that was a roller coaster and a half. And of course, I think Minyu has improved ever since that point, because I think he only just came back from his ban on the tour, and he might have actually been there as a bit of a qualifier or whatever, because I think that was the whole reason why he was the world number 48, because he got himself, you know, into the final of the Scottish Open, and then in one of the first, or the last 16 round, I think it was, with Ronnie O'Sullivan, which I think, last 16 in Saudi must get you more money than reaching the final in Scottish Open, which was another problem with that tournament. As Xiaoting clearly feels, he wants to try and get his problem sorted now. It's a risky shot to be taking on. Let's see how well he goes. He went perfectly well on the black. Easy still on the reds, because that was the problem, not having the colour to try and rely on, having to go for the blue or the bold colours every single time. Now he's got the black. He's going to have to try and use it in the next attempt though, since he's absolutely nowhere near to have the angle on the reds, and he needs the angle on the blue. I don't think he'll get it, so he's going to have to try and improvise. But he is about as straight on the blue as you can be, so no chance to use the jaws or anything here. It's either he goes for the yellow, or he's probably going to be committed to playing a very difficult shot or playing a safety altogether. Chang 6, O'Sullivan 4. I mean, I'm not really going to bet against O'Sullivan at this stage, because he has beaten Selby, and I think beating Selby was more difficult than beating Trump. But it's a tough one to call, this one. It genuinely is. If I was to say something, I would say Ronnie would win because of the experience. And I think that there are going to be nerves for Chang when he plays up against Ronnie, which I think was the reason what cost him in that Saudi match, because he had a 5-2 or a 5-3 lead, and he just didn't manage to hold his nerve together and, you know, disappeared towards the end, or lost the decider as well. Ronnie 6, Chang 3. If Zhao is in the final, is anybody going to be good enough to beat him, especially given his unbeaten record in finals? Well, listen, if you haven't been beaten before, it's going to happen at some point, isn't it? Unless he's going to be the biggest phenomenon in snooker history. I think he is going to have to get beaten in the final at some stage. And leaves me little when playing Ronnie. I don't know, like, it is a bit of a weird one, as Xington misses the reds into the left corner, which, to be fair, he was always going to miss. I think he will be... Listen, if I was to say something about it now, I think I would make a prediction where Ronnie would have to outscore Chang, and I don't really see that happening. I don't think he's got... Well, has he got enough of a safety game in himself to try and outplay Chang Minyu? Because usually the answer would be yes, but then you probably have to ask the question, well, if it was that simple, why was Trump not able to do that? Because Trump plays better safeties than O'Sullivan right now, and I think nobody would doubt that. I think his safety has improved massively. It's just that his overall game has dropped off a little bit, especially when he comes down to scoring. But listen, you've got the two inconsistencies there, and one of them will have to give. I think the start, once again, is going to be important, but I don't really think it will be as important for Chang, because I think if he gets himself into a bit of a problem, being 2-0 down or, 3-0 down or whatever, I think he's always going to be capable of coming back in a race to 6 frames, but I think for Ronnie, he will get the start once again to be very much needed for him. So I think probably the roads show Chang to have the form, but Ronnie to have the experience. So I'm just going to go for 6-5 for Chang. Yeah, that's probably what I'll go for. Anything is possible. We could lose the final for the first time. I'd pick Trump, so now I'd pick his Victor Chang. Yeah, but I think Trump against Ronnie would be a very interesting matchup, but I think it would be a very different one as well. Because I think Trump's all-round game is better than Chang, but which of course does make you question how has he lost that particular encounter. But Robertson is certainly all over the place. And I think he got away with this one. Yeah, he got away massively there. He's rolled the cue ball into, exactly at the bottom of those two reds, which he nearly left away towards Zhao. So now there will be an opportunity of playing a good safety here. But yeah, the interesting thing about it is that it's not even an easy safety for Xington to play. He's just going to have to try and send the cue ball a little bit to the right of the reds, and that's what he's done. But still getting a 25 points of a lead would certainly prove to be a very healthy advantage there for Zhao Xington, as he's now looking at the reds probably to be taken once again towards, the contact with the cue ball to be made. Somebody will have to give eventually because, Robertson is going to be pushing for a re-rack potentially here if he can, but 25 points of a lead I think is something that Zhao Xington will try and keep it to himself rather than having to start the frame from scratch. But for the time being, it's just a little bit of a rolling backwards and forwards. I think at this stage, I don't actually think somebody would care too much about giving a free ball, not a free ball, but touch and ball away, because at that stage, one of the players would be able to... That's interesting. Robertson there. Having a little chat with the referee, which I thought was surprising. Let's have a little look on this one then, because I wonder what he said to the referee, because it's only been 2 or 3 shots. Ah, okay, sorry, he called a foul on himself. Because I was going to say, I thought he complained about, this taking too long and he wants a re-rack, but in the end it was a foul that he committed. So he just admitted to referee that, so apologies that for Neil. And great sportsmanship there. So, interesting shot there Zhao has played. Happy to leave the cue ball in a position where there is going to be a red which can potentially be taken in towards the right middle. But the question has to say the same. Is Robertson going to go for it? Well, once again, he had a shot in towards the right middle, which cost him the first frame. He had a plant into the right middle, which cost him the second frame. He's got a plant into the right corner, which I'm not going to say is going to cost him the frame, but we'll see. This time around, he makes the plant in. So let's see how far he's going to be able to get on this particular break, because we haven't really seen him scoring much. What time is Ronnie on tomorrow? He should be in the morning once again. So 7 o'clock in the UK. And I think it's 2 o'clock in China in the afternoon. So we'll see. As I say, the position is still very much there for the taking in relation to no reds on the cushions, but plenty of reds in the middle of the table and covered up by the pink in the main pack there, 6 to be precise. 2 more reds available in the open play on top of those 6, but I think Robertson may not really have to wait for too long. Didn't play this shot well. Just didn't get the contact that he needed. I think he tried to flick the reds, but the way that he played that shot, he needed to get a very firm contact on the pink. He didn't get anywhere near that, and now he's going to have to be a safety shot. So, yeah, taking a very risky plant at the starting point of the break. Has only brought in 14 points here. And once again, just not scoring heavily enough there from Robertson's point of view, but still getting the initiative in those safety battles and, allowing himself to be with a chance of coming back to the table if Zhao is to make a mistake here, which I think Robertson still has the advantage of Zhao needing to play that extra shot there, although I think he rolled to the bunch pretty well. Probably shouldn't stop Robertson from having a chance of rolling the cue ball towards the right side rail anyway, and just make sure he gets the white somewhat close towards the black ball cushion, which he has done. Play that shot pretty well, but ultimately he has left a margin for Zhao Xington to try and take this red all the way towards the top edge of the table and take one of the main reasons why we are getting stuck in this battle here of one of the reds to be sent towards the lower end of the table. He would probably put him on the back foot though, because the second red is going to be available for Robertson to take as a safety. He's clearly going to try and get that red away from the top part of the table, but I think it's probably just down to the momentum thing rather than anything else. And yeah, Zhao has gone for that shot anyway, and he's managed to leave that red in available play there, which is a smart tactic, because Robertson can't really put the cue ball down the table unless he plays that shot really well, because there is going to be danger of taking those reds into the middle. And alternatively, there is also going to be a chance, if Robertson takes one of those top reds away, then Zhao is going to be able to take the other one away, which would make his life a lot more difficult. And that's not something that he wants to achieve. And I don't really know what he's done there, I have to say, because it seemed like he's just trying to go in between. And to be fair, I mean, the result is not bad. I think the red that he should have been worried about has gone close enough to the side cushion. I still think Xington may attempt this one to try and pot it in towards the right middle, but chances of him actually making that red on target are going to be very, very slim. Let's see if he can get through to the long shot. I think he may have a similar chance of making that long shot into the green pocket as he will if he tries to go for the red in towards the right middle. But also the long shot is, I think, the safer shot for you to play. So we'll see what's going to happen. He's taking the shot with topspin, so I think it suggests that he's going to just try and play a safety shot and leave that cue ball to be onto the ball cushion. Got a little bit lucky off the kiss of the brown, because I think it's a massive difference maker to Robertson, since he can't apply any backspin to the cue ball. He can only play to the center or slightly to the top part of it. From the flash score platform, Chang vs Sullivan is 9 AM China time. I feel that's inaccurate. No. They always do that, Peter. I always use that platform. I don't know why, but because Wuhan Open has got this thing where they had the morning, the afternoon, and the evening session, flash score always will tell you that it's 3 o'clock, but then it will change to 7. Damn, Robertson, get on that board, our kid. Well, we'll see if that's going to be the case. Chang to go to number 20-25. If he wins against Ronimi, I don't think you get a lot for this tournament, I have to say. For reaching the semis, I think you get 33k. Robertson, well, felt like he had to go for that red into the middle. Clearly felt there was nothing better for him to do. And if that was the best that he could achieve, then unfortunately he won't be able to achieve a lot more in this frame. Should Zhao Xington to be able to pot this red away and into the right corner. A little bit awkwardly, having to go with the rest as well, but taking that red away, taking the black away as well, and he's got the black just about to be available. I'm not sure it is, but from what I can see with this camera angle, he will have the black to be available. God knows where the cue ball is going to go. I think it's going to be so far wide that he's going to miss the entirety of the reds. So he may have to do something with the spin as well. But this is going to be fun. And well, it wasn't really fun for Zhao Xington because he was trying to take that shot so thin that he missed the contact on the black altogether. So now he'll be 7 points away to Neil Robertson. And in the end, Neil has still got a great chance of making this frame to go his way after all. Chang is ranked 48. So Robertson still not really made a scratch on this match then. Well, he is going to. Right now, 7 in the morning running tomorrow. Yes, that's true. Yeah, I mean, once again, it just seems like Zhao Xington knows that he doesn't need to be out of the first gear. There's Robertson there. I mean, could not have really done any worse on playing a positional shot for the ball colours, because he's now out of position for the green, out of position for the brown, and badly positioned for the yellow, if you're being honest. And he's on the wrong side of the table as well when he comes down to his playing for the right-hand side, whether he really wanted to be on the left side to try and get those reds next to the peng spot to be spread out away from each other. So I'll tell you what, he needs to do well, first of all, to pot the yellow. He's going for the backspin, which means he's going to try and drag the cue ball across towards the right part of the table. So not a bad shot, not a great one either. I think he was lacking a little bit of pace at the end. But with the black to be over the corner pocket, I think his life is not going to get any harder at this stage. As he's, well, I mean, he is in between those two reds, one into the yellow pocket, one into the left middle. Neither is easy, but I can't really say which one is easier for him. Probably the one into the yellow pocket is slightly easier for you to try and get. Zhao got on in 2024, lowest ranked, number 19 to win this title. Yeah, I mean, he's still the only two titles that he's managed to win, being two in the Wuhan Open in 24 and 25. Incredible stuff there from Zhao Guodong. One against Si Xiaowei, one against Gary Wilson, which was very impressive for him, and not quite as impressive, but still, Robertson getting that red in towards the yellow pocket, being slightly lower than usual on the blue, which means he's going to have to just try and drag the cue ball to the left part of the table if he wants to go for the reds on the left-hand side. If he wants to try and stay and keep the red at the right part of the table first, then he's going to have to go for the red in towards the right part of the table. And it seems like he's got another plan in his mind, and that wasn't a great plan to me. I think he tried to take the cue ball into the reds from the black, which was always going to be very little control for yourself when you play the black, which is so close to the pocket, but he clearly felt there was value in there. Let's see if there is, because he's now out of position on the red. He needs to recover well, and he's been able to do so for now. So Robertson, despite him having to play those difficult shots, he's been able to play them at the time when he had to, and now certainly sorted out all the problems with the reds. I think all four remaining ones are going to be in a nice position for him. And as he's now about to take another colour to put in between himself and Zhao Xington, which is being the yellow, he doesn't really have to worry about getting the red's position, because he's got one of the reds to be right at the top part of the table. So then, once again, just when it seems like one player got it all under control, the other player seems to have stepped back into the third frame. Exactly what happens in the match against Hawkins, exactly what happened in the match against Selby and O'Sullivan today. And now Robertson, despite spending 90% of the time in the previous two frames sat in his seat, not getting the first chance in, but now the second opportunity, should be able to score some really good points here to try and put the pressure onto Zhao Xington. And meanwhile, Zhao Guodong and Mark Williams have already finished the 3 frames, and Mark Williams leads by 2 frames to 1, but it is Zhao Guodong that's got the chance of trying to score some big points. Meanwhile, Robertson extends his highest break in the match to 22 right now. Still playing to try and get the red in towards the left corner, and therefore just get the cue ball lined up on the blue will certainly help him a lot there if the pink doesn't go into the left corner. If it does, happy days, and he's going to be even better there for Neil, because he gets the pink away from the red, he makes the red to go away from the pink, etc. And at the same time, you know, the pink is now going to be back on his spot, and he's only got 3 more shots to make that 2, until he is going to be officially clear of any threat from Zhao Xington, barring snookers, as he now rolls the pink in very carefully towards the right corner, gets himself lined up on the frame ball. So, despite him not being on top of his form there, he certainly got the chance in his frame, and now 36 points later, he's only 1 shot away of making the shot in, rolls the red carefully in towards the corner pocket, and now makes it down to 28 points of a lead with 27 at the table. If Neil can level, it's game on. Well, we'll see if that is going to be the case. Is Zhao Xington really ranked number 1 in the world right now? Really? That will change. I am going to put a disclaimer out. That will change if Robertson wins, because they are the world number 1 and world number 2, and they've got 2,000 worth of ranking points in between each other. So obviously, whoever wins this match is going to be the new world number 1 until the end of the tournament in England, at the British Open, I should say. But Robertson there still being very nervous about the scoreboard, knowing that Zhao Xington is always there, trying to catch up to you, but in the end, even though he's going to miss out on the green, I don't think there is going to be any value with Zhao Xington to be coming back to the table. It is a frame conceded, and it is going to be a break of 46 points, which gets Neil Robertson back down to just 1 frame behind of Zhao Xington, as it's now going to be Zhao Xington 2, Neil Robertson 1, and well, at last Neil was able to get himself on the frame of the board. Whether he deserved that or not, he certainly managed to worked pretty well for it. And just because Zhao Xington has made a couple of mistakes, that's got nothing to do with Robertson. But you do have to remember the blue that he missed at the starting point of a frame, and a couple of reds, which let down Zhao Xington as well. After he was unable to go for the reds in towards the left corner on numerous occasions, and got himself another chance. Didn't manage to get away with that one too well. And now Robertson was able to punish him with that break of 46 points at the end, which was more than enough for Neil to get himself a frame on the boards. Got to take his chances when they come, and Robertson has, yes, true. He wasn't from the first time though, so he needs to be a little bit more clinical in that particular aspect of the game. But when it comes down to the overall picture, I still think he's playing pretty well, and therefore he now finds himself to be in that position of only one frame in it, so you never quite know what's going to happen. There may be a drop-off from Zhao Xington, there may be a bit of an uprise from Neil Robertson's point of view as well. The bottom line is, you're going to have to be there when the chance presents to yourself, and so far, it was something that Robertson was able to achieve in that previous frame. So we'll certainly see what's going to happen here then, as we get ourselves towards the start of the fourth frame. It will be the break-off from Neil Robertson, but he also needs to be a performance from Robertson as well, because, I think you can say the same thing about Zhao Xington, but neither player has had a brilliant break of any sort there. I mean, Zhao Xington's first break wasn't bad of a century, but it wasn't something extraordinary that he's done. The break of 91 points was probably a little bit more impressive than that, actually, and, the break of 46 from Robertson was nothing special at all. I assume you play. What's your highest break? Well, I do when I've got time, I'll be honest with you. I didn't really do that for a while now. I think I'll be hoping to play on Sunday, because the tournament, surprisingly, finished on Saturday. So my highest break was repeated, and both of the times I missed it on colours. It's number 44, which, not great, but not bad. But I could have made the black into 51, which would have been the first 50 plus. But I missed out on it, and then on the other occasion, it was, I think, the yellow or the green that I missed out on to make it 46 or 47. Both of them were stupid errors, but, you can't really say anything else than that. Could have made a 50 plus, but didn't. And in the end, I'll settle for 44 for now. Now then, someone that won't settle for 44 or 46 being the average is going to have to be Neil Robertson. Nice, it's around mine. Well, there you go. Zhao Xington isn't going to be looking around the break of 44 to be his own benchmark, as something that didn't really help him in the previous frame when he had something like 44 points of difference in between himself and Neil Robertson, at the point where he decided there wasn't going to be any reason for him to come back to the table whilst only having 25 points available to him, and a little bit surprised, and probably down to the yellow intervening with the cue ball, that Zhao Xington hasn't gone for the red into the corner. Let's see if Robertson is going to try and take the edge here and go for the red in towards the right middle. He decided not to be doing that, and I think he's just about managed to keep the pace down there on the red, so that he's going to be right on top of the pink, and therefore just play it with top side. And just carefully find himself to be lined up at the top part of the table. Nice little line there to finish in behind the yellow. Lacking pace a little bit, but he lacked so much pace that he's finished perfectly onto the ball cushion, which is still going to be pretty well played, I would say. As it's now Robertson that finds himself to be in with a chance of trying to get the top red away. Just needs to make sure he either doesn't leave it too close to the right corner, or he gets the cover on the cue ball. He didn't get any one of those boxes to be ticked. And I think he's about to be ticking the box of time spent in his seat for a little bit longer. He's gone back to it straight away. Let's see if Zhao Xington makes this red in. And there you go. I mean, that's what people were talking about. Sometimes when you spend a frame away from the table, it can compromise you. And Zhao Xington was powering his way through, whether he was down to the positional play or whether he felt like he had to do that due to the technique not being the best. But the result is still the same. The red stays at the table, and Robertson is going to be looking at the same red to be available to him. So, yeah, I would expect him to go for this red, probably to make it as well. He needs to play the shot with power, though, to try and get the cue ball somewhere near the blue or the bold colours. And very surprised to see Robertson not taking that red on there. I mean, he was the player that got away with a chance like that in the previous frame, where he's gone for a long shot and didn't really have to pay any price for it. And now it's turn of Zhao to try and do the same thing. Now then, an opportunity for Zhao to try and get the cue ball towards the yellow and play that shot pretty well. The question is, how close is he now going to be towards the safety of the red on the right part of the table? Is the blue going to be intervening with that? And if it's not, then does Robertson have what it takes to try and go for that red, make it to the right corner? Back from AFK, good to hear. Welcome back, Letitia, but yeah, welcome back, Neil Robertson, in the previous frame. Certainly was the case, but he's still going to have to try and find himself to be playing a cross double. Unfortunately for himself, just can't find an attacking shot there. Still has to be careful with those type of cross doubles because he needs to make sure he gets the red far enough from the pocket. I think he's just, well, I'm not sure, you know. I was about to say he's just about got the red close enough to the main bunch so that the cue ball can't see it. Well, Zhao is playing for that part of the table, which to me means that he can get through to the red. Usually that means it's a red potted, not this time around. And as I say, that's now 2 long shots that he missed in a row. Something that we haven't really seen beforehand in this match. And now the question is, can Robertson get through to the red, past the pink and into the right corner? Zington clearly doesn't seem to be too bothered about it, but yeah, he needs a response here, and he needs it pretty quickly, and ideally he doesn't want to see Robertson to be getting his own chance in the meantime. As now, it's a good attempt there from Neil. I was about to say good shot, but then I had to change it last second to a good attempt because I thought the cue ball was going to drift towards the and being in behind of the green. But in the end, it just cannoned sideways into it. So it was a good effort that from Robertson. He had a nice line, but just about caught the green a little bit there, which was never going to result in Robertson being snookered. Zhao Xington, meanwhile, just tries to take the cue on a journey around the green and leaves a chance. Zhao long shot losing its sting lately. Great to see Neil at back end of the tournaments again. Yeah, he's certainly been on the rise a little bit recently. He's managed to make China Open quarterfinals, I'm pretty sure. And against Selby, I think it was. Or was it even the semi-finals? No, I think it was the quarterfinals because semis was Selby against Bingham. And didn't really play too well against Mark Selby, but, you know, he got that frame very late on in the match. The fact that he got his earlier today may still help him to try and challenge Zhao, which, you know, still seems to be out of form there. Despite making breaks of 91 and 106, it's a luxury to be saying, you know, I've made the breaks of 101 and 90 and, you know, I'm still out of form there. At least that's what I believe from watching him. But safeties have not been bad for him. And he's just proving that again by playing a brilliant safety shot. Not only did he manage to justify the contact point very thin on the edge of the red, but also judged the power superbly well on the white. And no chance of leaving anything available to Neil Robertson. And not a lot that he's left to play a safety shot as well. Yesterday, Zhao made amazing long shots many times. Yeah, but I think he is saying lately, though. So I was about to say the same thing, and then he said lately. So I think it's more of a precaution of what's going to happen next. And I agree with that, because he's now missed 2 in a row. It's been a while since we've seen him miss 2 in a row. And, yeah, his overall game plan is always based around either a chance from your opponent, which has been the case today. I don't think he had to, you know, dig with a long shot on either one of those 2 breaks that he's had, which realistically were the reason why he's now 2-1 ahead and not 3-0 down. I think that was very much down to a mistake from Robertson. But this time around, it's a long shot, which is not going to be made 0 out of 3. It's a brilliant shot, which Zhao Xington has taken really, really well. And after a bit of a lucky kiss, which he probably deserved, after getting all that accuracy into the shot, he now gets himself perfectly topside of a blue. The black is away from the pocket, but ultimately available. And I think we're about to see another high-value break coming up very shortly there from Zhao Xington. How's the other quarterfinal going, please? It is 2-1 to Williams, last time I checked, against the reigning champion of Xiao Guodong, But now it is already an intermission. Xiao Guodong responded really well with a break of 63 points to counter a 2-1 lead. And now, you know, Williams and Zhao are still going to be battling away against each other. I'm pretty sure they've met last season because I've done a stream on it as well. I can't remember if it was quarterfinal or semi-final. I think it was semis because I think Williams managed to beat Zhang 6-2 in the quarters. It was a very quick match, and then it was down to Zhao against Williams in the semis. So it's a repeat of what happened last year. And of course, Zhao was able to beat Williams to progress to the final stage before eventually overcoming Gary Wilson as well in the decider. Now then, Zhao Xingtong is going to be focusing on making sure he doesn't get a decider at this stage. And didn't play this shot too well. He was never able to avoid the contact on the red with the cue ball, but well, let's see what can he actually achieve here then. Because he can easily play the cue ball on the left-hand side of the black, but the problem is that side of the pocket is covered there by yet another red, so I think whatever he does, he's going to have to try and squeeze the cue ball past the red onto the right side rail. Make sure he's not going to drop it into the pocket. Yeah, easier said than done there, and in the end, I'm not sure how, but he missed the red altogether. I thought he played that shot really well there, you know. And I think that was a little bit unfortunate. They don't really show you replays in China unless it's a long shot, so I don't think we're going to see that one back. But I actually thought he didn't really catch any of the front jaw. So, you know, maybe just played that a little bit too much of a pace. In the end, Robertson is going to counter that, saying, you want pace? I'm going to give it to you. Brilliant long red into the yellow pocket, and Robertson is coming alive there. Being 20 points in the previous frame didn't stop him from having a break of 46 points, and now trying to do the same thing in frame number 4. One thing that you can certainly say about this match is that he's not going to be dragging on for a while. Zhao Guodong won his title twice. Happy he won a couple of ranking events. Certainly the case. But he's got a great challenge, and I think the challenge is going to be bigger this time around because we've got semi-final of O'Sullivan against Chang, and whoever is going to be, even if Zhao does manage to make this group of death to be working for him, and he defeats the winner of this match, he defeats Williams, he's still going to have to be the underdog, whether he's going to be up against Chang, that has beaten Ronnie O'Sullivan and Trump, or whether he's going to be up against Ronnie O'Sullivan, who's managed to beat Mark Selby and Chang Min-yu. So it's a difficult position there for Zhao Guodong to try and keep that unbeaten run alive, but I'll tell you what, he's done pretty well for himself for now, because he was behind of Wakeland for the majority of the starting points of that match. And so has he been behind Mark Williams today. But now at the intermission, they go back level. Scoreline, which is very likely to be occurring here as it stands, because it's Robertson at the table, with plenty more reds available to him, and only 5 points of a difference to try and overcome. And even though it is 83% of you think that Zhao Xingtong is going to be the winner, listen, I thought before the start of the match, it's probably 70-30. After 2-0 of the lead, probably would have raised that to 85%. But maybe the freshness too, with the qualification phases, it's a long tournament and high-ranked players change matches after matches in the UK 2 days after this one. Agree, but I don't think whoever gets himself into the final is going to play in the UK, which is a shame. But I have to say, I'm not a great fan of the British Open. I think the way they do the draw is a little bit stupid, because what they do is you're going to have, I can't remember the match last year where Trump finished his performance, and I can't remember if he lost or won, which doesn't really give me a lot of justice, but he finishes his match. 30 minutes later, he needs to play another one. I mean, what sort of credibility is that? How can you finish your match, which was a long match? That was the whole reason for it. And they don't really update the schedule. They just say, this match is going to start as soon as the old one finishes. So Trump was the man missing from that quarterfinal, last 16 lineup, whatever. So he finishes that match against, once again, I can't remember who the opposition was. And then 30 minutes later, he's playing the next stage. Against Robertson, I think it was actually. So it might have been Murphy, but yeah, I mean, whatever it wasn't a great thing on the table. But as I say, I think Zhao Xingtong has probably been the most disciplined player when it comes down to playing in those tournaments. I think O'Sullivan is not going to play at the British Open. It was always going to be the case, whether he lost in the first round or he's going to play in the final. He's not going to be in that tournament at all. As Robertson there, I tell you what, he's certainly finding his range for the long shots. And he's got another one into the yellow pocket. But the problem is the position is not really getting any easier for him because he's making a tough job of the reds that are supposed to be easy for him. Will be the first time Robo has beat Zhao in a proper ranking event if he pulls it off. I heard the upcoming British Open is going to be on Channel 5. Yes, I've seen that one, Stephen. So it should be very much down to it as well. But it's nice to see Channel 5 getting a little bit of coverage. I think they're still going to be doing the player series. So that's going to be one way of watching it for free. For anyone that likes that sort of stuff. As Robertson there, once again, testing his Q power. And this time around, I think he's going to come away short with no power there as he makes the contact with the ping. But in the end, it was more of a hello rather than get away from the reds. And the pink is now going to be away from his spot, but the reds are not going to be spread out any more than they were beforehand. So Robertson's now got a choice of playing the plant, which he's got two of in the right corner. I don't think he's going to go for that option, although he's having a very good look at it. And, you know, he is going to be down to his choice. But I think he's going to be the reasonable man, trying to hold to that 21 points of a lead. And at the end, make sure that Zhao doesn't get a freebie available to him over the corner, which could have well been the case had Robertson gone for the plant and not been able to make that one into the right corner. For now, it's a little bit of a playing the cue ball backwards and forwards, which we've seen in the previous frame. So now Robertson is just thinking about trying to put distance in between the cue ball and the reds. Of course, he's the one that has to be a little bit careful, a little bit, in relation to the 21 points of a gap that he has. In case there is going to be genuine concern from the referee that this has been going on for too long and there is a chance for a re-rack to be introduced to the table. But I think, of course, if you're going to do that, it does put you on the back foot in relation to you are going to have to be the player which plays an extra shot there, because basically your opponent will see the cue ball to be on the side cushion and he's going to have a straightforward line just to be taking that cue ball away onto the reds and just making sure there won't be any trouble for him. If Zhao was in first, normally he can score 30 plus 20. Yeah, but he's done that for 2 frames now. In the previous frame, I'm pretty sure he scored around 20 points as well. Just not good enough on the cue ball and not good enough on the pot success there. Very simple. You add those two things together and you have to wonder how he's leading by 2 frames to 1. But yeah, I mean, not really a way for us to get anywhere here. And now there is still an opportunity for Zhao to be looking around and seeing what's going to happen with the cue ball and those reds. But I don't think he's going to be the man that has to do something here, although he might have fouled there, which, you know, would probably put Robertson to be in exactly the same position. So just play from here, it says, and therefore Robertson is going to get 4 points available to him. Positioning problem, I think it is down to 2 factors there. I think he gets way too many chances to himself, Zhao. I know he's had those 2 breaks, but you shouldn't really confuse yourself. These 2 breaks, certainly in the first one, in the first frame, that wasn't the only chance that he got. And it did take a long time until he was actually able to score any sort of points out there. So I think Zhao has been a little bit wasteful with his chances, and that comes away with both missing shots. But I think a lot more importantly, he still doesn't really have full control of the positional play. Recovering the Ronnie say, I mean, is this guy going to be blue tomorrow? Absolutely, Kevin. Absolutely. I mean, Ronnie in the semi-finals, I mean, I couldn't believe that he beat Selby, and, you know, not covering Ronnie O'Sullivan semi-final against Zhang would be criminal. Robertson is a great, especially as a Ronnie fan, Robertson is a great player, no doubt, but I like Zhao's game more. Agree? Probably same. I've got great respect for Robertson. Probably more of a past than I've got now in relation to, I thought he was such a dangerous player in 2014, 15, 16, 13, 11 than he is right now. But obviously something that you can't really change with age. He's to become younger and be better in some of those shots. But yeah, I mean, that's probably the reason why Zhao is going to be the player that he is right now, and he won't be able to maintain that game for 20 years unless he's going to be the new page and the new era of snooker. And very much putting it down to, unrealistic sort of expectations where you have got the age not being a massive factor there for someone like Zhao Xingtong, which I think he will be, especially since what we've seen of Ding, since we've seen of Mark Williams, Ronnie O'Sullivan, Higgins to an extent as well. Robertson there, finding his game with long shots and once again going for the brilliant long raid in towards the corner. He now just has to be in the zone where no man's land there, unfortunately. A millimetre higher, a millimetre lower, it would have been a lot better on the blue to be taken into the left middle or the left corner, but at the same time, he'll be down to a mistake. So many good players today, so I can't see just one dominant game. Agree, but at the same time, there was always going to be a favourite, and so far, the favourites have always lost, which is an interesting thing, by the way. Xingtong is going to be the favourite, Williams is going to be the favourite, Selby was the favourite, and Trump was the favourite against Chang. The first two didn't get too far. And let's see how Robertson is going to be able to try and tackle this particular break. How's the cue ball? Well, it's not great. I think the plan for Robertson was to try and get stuck into the reds. In the end, he played a really good long shot. He played a really good shot on the blue. But it's only going to give him 6 points and a chance to go for yet another long red into the right corner. Told you, Ronnie, mate, yesterday. Well, you did, but a lot of people could have told me anything there. I would have not believed there. And you can't really tell me that you would have believed that at 2-0 down, well, how badly Ronnie was playing. But let's see if Robertson gets another red in, and he does. Tell you what, he's certainly got a little bit of Zhao Xingtong magic into himself injected. But yeah, same old issue. Positional play. He's going to be searching for Robertson, and he can't seem to find it there. He needs to be looking somewhere else, because once again, it's a brilliant long red, but the yellow, brown out of position. The green, blue, not really doing the work that they need to. Blue is too far down. Green is too straight. The grass is too green. And the air is too fresh. Seem to be the excuses there for Robertson. But the bottom line is, he's either going to have to play a mighty shot with topspin on the green, a very difficult shot on the blue, which I think he's not going to go for, or he's going to have to just settle for another safety shot there. Game on here. What happened to Ding? He's a strange player right now. Ding has to fall apart. Yeah, I mean, exactly. Unfortunately, that is the case. And I think his downfall came very suddenly because he was playing well in the UK, which I suppose was 3 years ago when he got himself into the final with Ronnie. But I think we haven't really seen Ding last season. We certainly haven't seen him in semi-finals of any event. We've seen him to a couple of quarters, but, with a top 16 player, I don't really think it's something that you can celebrate, being in a quarter-final, when sometimes that's only one round that it takes for you to be there, like the Masters. So it's a decent shot there from Zhao Xingtong, although he needs to be a little bit fortunate there to make sure that yet another long raid is not available. And the interesting thing is that, the first frame was certainly the approach of Zhao Xingtong, saying to Robertson, you need to be careful that you don't leave me a chance away. And now, all of a sudden, Xingtong has to be careful not to give an opportunity away to Robertson. And just tells you that a lot of things can change in snooker with the space of just a couple of frames there. Now then, a chance for Robertson. Well, I'm not sure what that was. It was a really good attempt to pot the green, although he had absolutely no intention of doing that. The green is now going to be over the pocket. So at the end, probably going to classify that as a safety shot, although I don't really know what he was doing with that sort of power. And he was very lucky to hit the green the way that he did. And slow the cue ball right down to the minimum pace. And yeah, of course now, all of a sudden, especially with brown and black to be very much available at the lower end of the table and to be over the pocket, the green being over the green pocket right now as well, it does make it very important for you to get the next red in, especially since for now, there is not a specific red or colour which would make you feel like, well, that's going to stop me from making a total clearance, and that's going to be relevant for both Robertson and Zhao Xingtong, because neither one is far enough ahead. But I'll tell you what, that was a very, very aggressive and risky shot from Robertson. If the previous one was aggressive on the pace of the cue ball, then this one was very aggressive on the line, Just about managed to miss the black on the way down the table and on the way up as well. But the result could not have been any better, both from the opportunity of the reds and also from the cue ball's point of view. Ding is finished. Well, he's not quite finished, but he says that he seems to be nowhere near his form. I think he's going to be finished when, he starts losing the first qualifying round. Although, just as I say that, he has lost the first rounds to David Gilbert and Liam Davis, which doesn't really strike you as a player that has got loads of confidence, but you still, you never quite know. Just look at Mark Cullen. He's withdrawn from 5 tournaments right now. Just by the way, I still forgot to put it on the post. Mark Cullen has withdrawn from English and British Open as well. So, yeah, whatever it is, it was always going to be serious as soon as he said that he was withdrawing from Wuhan and from the China Open, especially with a new tournament coming up to the rankings. But at the same time, I think you are going to have to say it will be... Listen, it's not nice for you to speculate, especially since the label that he puts is personal reasons. But for me, Alan has got a massive issue, which he thought he could manage whilst only missing Shanghai. Then that issue extended to 2 more tournaments, and he thought he could manage it before the start of the European season. And then, now, or 2 days ago, or whatever, he's realised that issue is going to be significant enough that he needs to miss another 2 weeks of snooker. So either it's the same issue, which he has to fight with right now, or it's an issue which is, just hasn't been fixed there for him. And the first time that it's occurred, as Zhao Xington there tries to be the aggressive player, and in the end, I'm not sure he's going to have to pay any sort of price for it. In fact, seemingly it is Robertson that finds himself to be in a very weird position where he's got a red over the corner pocket, he's got the green over the corner pocket and the brown, but he can't get through to this red. It's over the pocket, but it is slightly to the cushion in relation to its location. So it is interesting to see the way that Robertson approaches this one then, because he's going to have to do something which would ensure for him that he gets the cue ball to be safe in relation to that particular raid, which is what he's done. So now, the black to be covering that raid from the left-hand side of the table certainly help whoever's trying to protect the cue ball from seeing that raid, which in the last shot's case was advantage for Robertson. This time around, it will be advantage for Zhao Xington if he does play the same shot. And yeah, I mean, something that a match has started very quickly indeed, sort of slowed down a little bit over the last 20 minutes. And can you give us an idea where the reds are located at the table? So, one over the left corner, but covered up by the black and still being a little bit close to the cushion. But I think it is going to be like 2 or 3 centimeters away, but that's no longer relevant. Well, Robertson tried to exploit that red as the extension for the pocket. He didn't play that shot well enough, and I don't think we're going to have 4 reds to be at the table for a long time, because I know Zhao Xington has not been playing well recently, but even here, at his worst, he's not going to be able to miss a red like that, as he hasn't. So now with 3 reds, 1 next to the pink spot, 1 on the black ball cushion. Both of them are possible and reasonably easy for you to pot. And 1 more red, which served as that pocket extension for Neil Robertson, is now going to be covered up by the black in a very, very awkward position. Because if you try and make contact with that red, you have to do it through the black, presumably. And the only way for you to get on that red is make contact with it. So, yeah, I mean... And of course, if you're going to push the cube onto the black, you risk of potting the red, because it is a bit of a plan that those two are forming. So... I think it's not really the mission that Zhao Xington is going to be thinking about too much. I think he needs to get himself a couple of points on the board first, as he gets himself 26 points out there. And now on 32, so 43 at the table. And, well, he's played the shot with plenty of backspin. He tried to make some sort of dent in the black and the red. So, I mean, it'll be interesting to see what he does now, because I think he's going to have to call the black here and try and be the clever man that he is. Well, at least so I thought. I don't really understand him playing the yellow. I mean, what's he going to achieve with this? I mean, surely Robertson is just going to be able to roll that cue ball past the black ball cushion and cannon its way onto the red. I don't really understand that type of a shot there. And damn, Neil, what have you done? I trusted you. Well, he hasn't done anything yet in relation to this frame. He's still in charge to the certain point of the points, but yeah, let's see what's going to happen here then. Unless Zhao was a little bit too smart there, and he anticipated that the cue ball is going to get stuck towards those reds, which is what's happened. And now, this is when the damage can really be done there, because the cue ball is going to be far away from the reds, and he can just try and get himself more and more points until, inevitably, the red is going to be eliminated away from the black or put over the pocket there. But we'll see. Certainly no visibility there for Robertson. So he's going to have to be playing those shots with very little pace, but a lot of accuracy. And, well, this time around, I think that will be the end of any sort of points pursuit there from Zhao, because it's now going to be a really nice shot from Robertson, which sticks the cue ball towards that red. And, no, that doesn't seem to be the case. He still feels that there is going to be some value in trying to get the cue ball far away to the left side cushion. Make sure he's got a line of not allowing Robertson to be seeing that red directly. So he's going to have to try and do the same thing again. I don't think the cue ball can squeeze through past the black onto the side cushion. So he's going to have to do it through the black ball cushion here. So once again, very delicate on the pace. And this time around, he plays it sideways, which now should be putting him into prime position. And Zhao to be the one struggling a little bit here. But I think there is enough of a distance for the red to be squeezed past the black. So there is still an opportunity, if he plays this shot well, to get the snooker. And he has played that shot well. The question is, how well has he played it? Because is there going to be a way for Neil to be seeing that red on the left side cushion? It's a really high IQ battle there from both of the players. And some of the shots they played may look simple, but they were played very precisely and well. And now, of course, Neil is going to have to take this one to cushion escape. He needs to be a little bit careful that he is going to be aiming towards the top part rather than the bottom in case he leaves away a free ball. So then the first time that he's going to miss, and it's going to be a foul and a miss. So 4 points given away to Zhao. Now going to see a live match. It depends where you're watching from. Once again, in the UK, you've got TNT. And in Europe, you've got Eurosport. And in China, you've got your own broadcasting companies fighting for, trying to show the match here. But yeah, certainly looking forward to be seeing the way that this is going to work. Because Robertson was always going to miss the red higher rather than lower. So let's see how much of an adjustment has he made in the second attempt. I think it's going to be close. It was a really good attempt. And now, this is where the damage really has to be done there for Zhao. He needs to make sure he squeezes that red past the black and through a little gap in the window that he has. And ideally, he wants to try and have the red quite far away from the black as well. So just trying to have him on ropes, forcing him to either play the shot with a lot of power or alternatively making sure that he gives him enough points so that Zhao is now going to have more than 35 points of the advantage. So we'll see if that's going to be the case. For now, it's a nice little shot that he's played. And yeah, the problem is for Robertson, he finds himself in a prison which doesn't really have a second exit. And the key to the first exit is going to be with Zhao until the end of this battle, unless he makes a mistake and leaves that key in the cell there, because, well, I think that's what he's done there, whether that was on purpose or not. But he decided that there wasn't really a value in trying to play a shot very thin on the edge from a red and just get the cue ball away from the black. So whether he got tired of it or he felt like that was the real value in trying to put the cue ball in between the blue and the red. So we'll see what's going to happen, but I don't think Robertson can play a shot with plenty of power, so he should still put Zhao to be in some sort of control of the position. And there was a little bit of a swerve, and the red was hit first, I think, so there's not going to be a foul called by the referee. Trying to take over your last hopes. As I say, don't need to panic for you just yet. You may need to do that later on. But Don't panic just yet. He's 15 points clear, 35 at the table. It is a battle for the reds, and I don't think Zhao will need that black, which right now is the only colour out in a bad position. But Zhao plays another brilliant shot there to find Neil Robertson to be snookered. And it's a really interesting battle, this one, that we're seeing between Zhao and Neil Robertson. And the question is, who's going to come out on top? For now, it's a rhetorical question because, you know, it's obviously going to be Xington that comes out on top for now, because Robertson is the player that has to play those type of shots. But now he seems to have got himself fully out of that play, so that's no longer going to be the case, where the red is no longer next to the black, and now it's just a straightforward safety battle, where Zhao seemingly has got the first shot to play, but doesn't really have a chance of playing the shot the easy way, especially if he classes his way on towards the jaw of the middle pocket. And now, this is interesting to see what's Neil going to try and do here, because he's got the green to be covering, but at the same time extending the green pocket there. So if he plays this shot into the cushion, it's a risk of leaving the red over the corner, but of course you've got a great chance of making that red to go into the green pocket as well, which would be the frame winner here at this stage. Unless something very, very unlikely is going to happen. So then he's playing with backspin, which means he's going to try and force his way onto the pocket, which is always a bad thing. I mean, I said that previous battle was high IQ. I'm very, very surprised that Robertson, with his knowledge and his experience, was trying to force that one. It never works, you know. Those type of shots, they never work, because the contact that he needed to make was always going to be light, that he needed to make for the red to be dropped in. So either he was trying to squeeze squeeze the red into 60% of the pocket, which I doubt he was, because the thing about it is that if you touch the green first, you're not making the shot. No matter how light the touch is, I'm pretty sure you're not going to make the shot, especially if you play with that sort of power. And now Zhao has got him snookered again, so I think that was a very poor shot selection from Zhao in the first place to leave that red available. He should have been nowhere near the jaw, but then I think Robertson has certainly put himself on the back foot after playing his shot in that way. And yeah, I mean, as I say, you touch the green first, you've got no chance of making the red in, but I think with that power, he didn't really have a lot of a chance. Ooh, I mean, that is fortunate. He drops the red in there, Robertson, with a fluke. Don't think he's going to get a fortune out of it, though. He does get the first chance of playing a snooker behind a colour of his choice. And I think it does actually leave Zhao to be needing the black now, which is another important thing, because now 16 points behind. So if he was to score 20, he wouldn't be 7 points clear or more. So it's now going to be a total clearance needed for Zhao. Good on 3-2 Mark Williams. Well, there you go. Thank you very much for that. Good on once again, just seemingly very quietly going on about the business, but remaining to be unbeaten in Wuhan. If Neil loses this frame, it's all over. Come on, Neil. Yeah, I probably would agree with that. Mentally, after you've been playing this frame what feels like an hour, it will be very, very damaging to Neil to lose it. I think Zhao won't really care for multiple reasons. I think he was always the underdog in this frame. And also, I think Neil needs this frame. Zhao doesn't really. He would love to get it because I think it puts him in a lot better of a position. But I think if he doesn't get it, he's not going to have a breakdown about it in the intermission. Gudon loves this tournament, absolutely. Still early, really. Well, I don't know. Is it early? Been playing for an hour in this particular frame, and Robertson's still taking more than a minute in trying to get a safety shot out of a fluke, which clearly trying to mess up the position there, I have to say, from the point of view of Zhao, because now I think he is looking at trying to get the pink away and into the right part of the table, which of course, if you put the pink and the black both to be on the side cushions, especially if it's going to be a different side cushion there, he decided to go for the blue. I'm not sure he played that shot well, you know. I think he hasn't compromised the blue at all. He makes the positional play from brown to the blue a lot harder, no doubt. But I still think the blue is absolutely possible into the left middle. And if anything, if you get a nice position on the blue, he will put you as a favourite for the frame to try and clear up no matter the position on the black. So Zhao, whether it was an attempt of a long shot on the yellow, didn't play that shot too well. Leaves the chance available for Robertson. The yellow is not perfectly on the side cushion, but it is close to the green pocket. So I would expect Robertson to try and attempt it. Drag the cue ball onto the left side of the table through the right side cushion. And, well, I expected him to get that yellow as well. He didn't. The same yellow is now going to be available, but I'm not sure Zhao is going to fancy his chances for a shot like this because of how much power he needs to get himself lined up for the green, but also how little margin for error he's going to receive with that. Yang Mitao was a clever player. I remember watching a game of him once where he was putting all the balls safe. I miss him. I don't think he should return to the snooker at all, but I'll tell you what, Zhao brilliantly taking that yellow away, and that was brilliant for him. Tell you what, came out of absolutely nowhere that shot because of how much power there was needed to get the cue ball around their ball colours. Well, this is where that safety that Robertson was trying to, very much create for himself in relation to the pink, the blue and the black all to be out of position. Now it's going to come in very handy there because now the brown taken in. Of course, now Robertson will need a couple of those shots as well. If the brown is taken away, I think he won't really be happy with just taking the blue away. Let's have a look. 7 points behind. So yeah, you will need the blue and the pink. Zhao got a really good position on the blue now. So this will be some sort of a clearance. If he doesn't make this one in, the blue was always going to be the easy meat if you play the position as well as he has. And now then, for the total clearance, he needs both the pink and the black for a 3-1 lead, which will put him very nicely lined up for the intermission. And the last time that Robertson was approaching that shot on the yellow, he must have felt he couldn't really lose that frame. I think Zhao is going to have different thoughts about it. It's still a massive shot on the black. Ooh, that was close to the front jaw, but he didn't even touch it at the end. That was brilliant there from Zhao, and in the end, he will be down to, well said, Stephen, I think you're smoking something dodgy. Yeah, I mean, as I say, Steve, you were going on really nicely, but saying that Yang Mitao is a very nice player, I think you've gone very much to the wrong part of the table. At the end time, it's Zhao that has gone the right part of the table and has now got a 3-1 lead against Neil Robertson, and he's now going to be playing, well, not really well, but playing for a result, I think. Making sure that he can still be 3 out of 4 players in Wuhan Open in the semi-finals to be from China, plus the greatest of all time, up against Chang Minyu already for one of the semi-finals to be completed, as we see the likes of Xiao Guodong still challenging Mark Williams for a place in the semi-finals, and on the other end of it, it will be Zhao Xington up against Neil Robertson, with Xington having a 3-1 lead right now, which he'll be looking to try and hold on to at the end of the intermission. Speak to you soon, everyone. 15 minutes time. Remember, stay tuned in for the action because this is not over. Robertson has shown it that he has managed to find the edge in the long shots recently, but has he got the ability to try and find a little bit of consistency, a little bit of fluidity with his game when he returns from that break, which is going to be very much needed for both of the players after such an exhausting frame, which Zhao Xington was able to win with some brilliant shots there on that 6-color clearance. The yellow and the black itself deserve a lot of admiration there from Xington, that for once he's actually able to be playing catch-up really well, and now the reward for that is going to be a 3-1 lead as the race for the world number 1 is about to take turns. 15 minutes time, everyone. Stay tuned in.
Eyes in the sky, gazing far into the night. I raise my hand to the fire, but it's no use, 'cause you can't stop it from shining through. It's true, baby, let the light shine through. If you believe it's true, baby, won't you let the light shine through for you, 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 for you. Won't you let the light shine through? In the sky, gazing far into the night. I raise my hand to the fire, but it's no use, 'cause you can't stop it from shining through. It's true, baby, let the light shine through. If you believe it's true, baby, won't you let the light shine through for you, 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 for you.
Right then, everybody, with the intermission almost being over, let's get ready to restart the action, as it's now going to be Zhao 3, Mark Williams 3 as well. So the other quarterfinal does seem like it is going to be a couple of frames ahead, but it just tells you that even though we had two very quick frames, at the same time we had a couple of frames which have taken a lot of time out of this match, and it's now been almost 2 hours since it has started, which, I certainly said this match wouldn't last past 3 hour mark, but we'll see. It is still possible if Zhao is able to get himself a couple of quick frames on the board, which is all he needs to try and get himself through yet another ranking event semi-final, and to be awaiting for the opponent to come either from Wales or from China as well. We'll see if that's going to be the case, but for now, it is Zhao to get us underway for the 5th frame. And then he will be back down to Neil Robertson. And a couple of very interesting frames that we have witnessed. The first two were dominated by Zhao after he got a first invitation in frame number 1. Didn't manage to take that one away. Left a chance for Robertson. Robertson blundered straight away as well. And then what followed was a century break. The only one so far, mate, in the match. And one thing I do have to say is that I think the safety has actually been to a decent level from both of the players. I think Zhao had the edge and still holds the edge in comparison to the two players, but I still think there is going to be a decent enough opportunity to be, in the lead there when it comes down to chance creation for Zhao. Probably has been better overall. I think it certainly has been a lot worse in the last couple of frames, where Robertson was able to find so many great long shots on top of the safeties. But let's see what he's going to try and achieve here. He's got a red available to be taken as a long shot, but I think he's just going to try and remove that red away. But always difficult shots, those, to manage, because you are focusing on removing a specific red away, which limits down to what can you do. And in this situation, what can't you do? And he couldn't miss the contact on the green. So then, once again, it's a long shot opportunity so far. Usually these ones, though, they disappear for fun for Zhao, but I don't know why he decided to play with so much backspin and such a swing, where he basically, as if he threw the cue ball at the table there, he's played it with so much spin and action, so that was never going to go in, and he wasn't even close. And even though he's managed to drag the cue ball to the top part of the table, he still left a chance for Robertson, and Neil is not going to be messing around here. He's going to take this chance away, which he needs to be doing pretty much until the end of the match here, if he is to have any chance of successfully completing the the potential for the 4 different nations to be featuring in the semi-finals. And we'll see if that's going to be the case. For now, it is still England and China to be confirmed. Still chances for China to have another player. And then you've got Wales and Australia to be represented by Mark Williams and Neil Robertson, if those two do manage to overcome the home favourites of Zhao and Zhao. So then, it seemed like Robertson is going to have to go into the reds. Never a nice thing to be doing so early doors in the frame. And I think that was unlucky there from Neil. I think he played the shot pretty well with power. Probably not firm enough anyway, because the cue ball sort of wobbled off the reds and sort of flicked onto them and came away to the very end of the table at the black ball cushion in the middle of it, where, as you might have guessed, there's not going to be anything available to him. So, let's see if he's going to be fancying his chances to go for the red into the middle. I was going to say that was going to be the only reason why I mentioned that shot, was I thought because he was aiming for it, but obviously he wasn't. Just aiming for that red to be taken. Must-win frame for Robert, I agree, but tell me a frame which is not going to be a must-win for Robert. He mustn't allow Zhao in the near future to get to that lucky number 4. And let's see if he's actually managed to cover the dangerous red away, because the way that he's swinging at the cue ball, I think this is an attack coming up. Wow, I tell you what, that was an attack and a half there, but if you talk about control, I think Zhao lost all of it. He bought some, and then he lost it again in that particular shot. That was, I'm not even going to say dreadful, I just don't know what happened there. It felt like a hurricane, where I think he touched every single one of those reds with the cue ball. sent 3 of those at the top part of the table and didn't get anywhere near the shot that he was taking on. So once again, 4 out of last 5 long shots that he's missed now, which is not a great stat for someone like him, who bases half of his chance creations very much down to, trying to find those good shots. But tell you what, if Robertson somehow manages to mess up the position, which he nearly did there, I mean, you have to ask the question where the positional play of Neil has been for the last 12 months or so. Zhao Xington, my favourite player at the moment, apart from O'Sullivan. Same thing, he's the best player from China, the main man right now. Probably, I think the main man right now is going to be Weezer, because he's got a little bit more hype because of him being the reigning world champion. But I think when it comes down to it being a better player, I think even Weezer would probably suggest that he's not at the level of Xington, purely for the age, for the way that his game has evolved as a player, and also for the way that their style of play is very different. And I think Xington's style is more complete when it comes down to the whole package. I think in their prime, Weezer is better because you can only do that much with the cue ball if you can't really rely on the pot success as much as you can. But when you talk about prime for Weezer, and I still think we've seen glimpses of it, but we haven't seen him to be competing under his prime for various tournaments. As I'm speaking, by the way, Robertson has missed out on the black, which, I felt like I should have mentioned it, but then I thought, well, he was playing some really good shots in the meantime, so I thought he was going to be able to manage it. But a very similar mistake to the one that O'Sullivan has made in frame number 6, it was, against Selby, where he had a stroll of so many breaks in a row, and then he just missed that black, and that cost him the frame. So let's see if that's going to be the same story here, because, after such a reckless shot that Zhao Xington has played, the fact that he was only able to, score 4 or so points there, Robertson, is very disappointing for him. And now a chance for Zhao Xington to try and make things right for himself and get that 4-1 of a lead, which will put him in the same position as Selby was in the match against Pang Ching-Su, and that, of course, being a very comfortable one indeed. It would be fair to have 2 Chinese and 2 English gentlemen in the semis, so you mean like we had in the Shanghai Masters. But we've seen that one before. I mean, I don't really care nationality-wise. I really wanted Trump against O'Sullivan. I got half of that right, and the most important half for me. I want, who do I want? I don't really care about Xiao Guodong or Mark Williams, I have to say, if I'm being honest. I would be happy enough to see either one of them for different reasons. But here, I would like Zhao Xington to win, no doubt. So if that was, if anyone cares for my opinion on it, that's my dream team. My dream 4, Zhao Xington, Judd Trump, Ronnie O'Sullivan, and let's just pick one. Probably Xiao Guodong, simply for him to have that unbeaten record in Wuhan. Makes him more dangerous and makes it more unpredictable when he plays up against Zhao Xington, if Zhao does indeed find himself 1.5 more frames to try and win. Why are all the Chinese players good looking? You have to ask yourself. I don't think they're that good looking, but I also don't think they're all good looking. I think they're very different, but I don't know. You tell me. I think now the chance is for the blue to be taken in towards the right middle. And you've got 18 points of a gap here in between Zhao Xington and Neil Robertson. So this is where the fun is going to start. And the fun is going to end for one of the players. And it does seem like the fun will end for Neil Robertson in this frame, because that was a brilliant shot there from Zhao Xington, allowing the cue ball to be open up the angle and perfectly played into the bunch of reds off 2 cushions. One of the best shots that he's played in a long, long time here. And one of the, well, not one of the worst, but not the best one that he's played there. Being on the wrong side of a blue. May have to just take the pink on, but yeah, the way that he's managed to spread those reds away from each other, he's certainly given himself a couple of options for a while to try and work his way through, as he now decides to go for the blue. So doesn't mind the distance in between the red and the cue ball. I got a feeling Robertson don't like playing Zhao. Well, why? Because he lost every single match that he's played against him? Maybe. Tell me who likes to be playing Zhao Xington. Ronnie, maybe, because he enjoys it. I think because he's genuinely a fan of Zhao outside of when he's playing. I don't think anybody right now would be enjoying to be playing Zhao Xington. Even himself. Well, maybe himself actually, because he does come across as that type of a player. But I don't think anybody would enjoy him. He's just way too unpredictable. He's way too, explosive when it comes down to if he plays well, he'll blow you apart. If he doesn't play well, he may still win the match. I agree with Gareth for the balance Europe-China 7. But we've seen that before. I mean, I don't mind it. As I say, I want to see Xington in there, so I need another player from China. And we can't really see another player. I've just realised we can't really see another player from England, can we? You asked for 2 players from England, and now there is going to be only a Welshman in there. But you don't seem to be fans of Xiao Guodong, which is a shame. I think the lad has done pretty well for how few titles he's won, in all of them to come in the same tournament, and the fact that he's still in contention. I genuinely think Xiao Guodong could win this tournament. And I genuinely mean that, just because of his record. As it's now going to be 52 points of elite for Zhao Xington. So very quietly tiptoeing his way through the business, and now just making sure that he has put himself into that window of having just one more frame that he needs. And I tell you what, at this stage, you have to say, Neil Robertson winning a frame against Zhao Xington is indeed a luxury. He hasn't done that on many occasions. 4-0 loss in English Open, 6-0 loss in Shanghai Masters. Now, he finds himself to be 4-1 behind in a race to 5 there, so it does seem like just a matter of time with a break of 70 points there from Zhao Xington. Commonwealth, yeah, I suppose. I don't think Murphy minds playing Zhao. He's not scared of him. Well, just because he beat him in the World Championship. I don't really agree with that. Because I think... I'm trying to think, actually, if they met before World Championship last season, they would have. But I can't really remember. I think at the Players I think at the Players Championship they have met. And I think Zhao was able to win that match. By the way, he's still going for a century break. Incredibly. From the position that he encountered, this is absolutely brilliant there from Zhao Xington. Look at the shot that he's played on the black to be so nicely lined up on the yellow. Brilliant cue ball control. And now, just a matter of time, it would seem, until he does get himself a century break on the board. But once again, how important was that shot on the yellow that he's taken in that 4th frame to get himself onto the green? Well, it certainly opened all the doors there for himself. And now he's about to close some of those doors for Neil Robertson, as it is going to be a century break waiting to happen. Just the blue for a break of 100 points, the 2nd century in the match. No surprise that both of them came from Zhao Xington's point of view. And it could still be a total clearance of 113 points out there from Zhao's point of view, as he now takes the pink away towards the green pocket. He's going to have the cue ball a little bit too close to the side cushion, but he should be able to manage it, as he does indeed get a nice little bounce. So, Zhao Xington then, after a bit of a stretchy start to this frame, he's now managed to find a brilliant break of 113, and it is a century to finish off there for Zhao. That now puts himself 4-1 clear of Neil Robertson. And I tell you what, after being so close to having a 2-all draw, he's now going to be about as far away from winning this match as he can possibly be for Neil Robertson. And Zhao, of course, is now going to have to win 1 out of the remaining 4 frames for him to be setting up what looks like a potential for an All Chinese semi-final. It is Xiao Guodong that for now is in control of this break, although just as I open my mouth, I think he's run himself out of position there. So taking the black away with so many reds to play for, but he's certainly going to have to bridge over the blue to take the red into the corner. Running at 50 years old, he still plays at top level. Is he 50 or is he 51? Because I feel like he's been 50 for ages. I think he is 51, isn't he? He can't be 50 years of age. He is 50 years of age. Yeah, he's going to be 51 in December. I don't know why, but to me, it just feels like he's been 50 for absolutely ages. Maybe it's because of the conversation of always rounding up his age there. Zhao, 1 more to go. Indeed. Xiao Guodong there looking to try and take the red away into the left corner. And he's missed it. Well, as soon as I open my mouth and I say Xiao Guodong is in complete control of that frame, he's gone and butchered it there. First with the positional play and then just not able to recover with a good enough pot success. So, the first real dent in the Wuhan Open King performance here. And now, all of a sudden, despite him being 43 points clear, you might want to keep an eye on Williams there, because I think now he becomes the favourite, as the referee on the first table is still setting up all the balls. But that is so poor from Williams. Well, I was just about to say he becomes the favourite for the frame. Well, maybe sometimes that's the problem of not watching a table there. You tune in and you feel like everybody's going to be scoring so highly, but you never know. Maybe they were both struggling for form, as Williams missed the black off the spot, which seemed to be very easy. But I bet there was a reason for him to be missing it. Anyway, it does seem like the race for the world number one is about to be won there by the man who is currently the world number one by only 2,350 worth of ranking points out of 1.2 million, I should say, which is incredible how close it is between those two. Just to put you into context, it is around 500,000 in between the world number one and the world number 6, if my math is correct. My memory is correct as well. And also, it is only 6,000 worth of ranking points in between Selby and Trump, with Selby actually jumping from being the world number 9 before the start of the China Open, overtaking Trump, which was comfortable world number 1 by the points the China Open was there. And even before, even if you take the Saudi points away from him, he was still a comfortable world number 1, you felt, because for him to get eliminated in the first round of China Open, for him to get eliminated in the quarterfinals of the Wuhan Open as well, it's just not good enough for the world number 1, and that's the reason why it's going to be Xington against Robertson for the place at the top of the rankings, and Trump is going to be out of that equation and now dropping behind Selby and Weezer as well as the world number 5. It's going to be a little bit unusual to see Trump as the world number 5. I think with Xington, there's nothing unusual with seeing the world number 1 next to his name. I think that was always going to happen at some stage, but it's just weird that Trump goes from being the world number 5, being the world number 1, to the world number 5. Especially since it's happened in absolutely no time. Yeah, many chasing number 1 spot, but only one can get it. With Selby and Trump eliminated, Weezer was eliminated in the first round. And yeah, it's now down to Robertson to try and have a word or two to say, but you could see his frustration there, just not getting enough on safety shots, I think not getting enough on anything, but I think his long shots have improved massively before the intermission. I think that fourth frame killed all the momentum even before the intermission started as well, but I think that was probably the problem there for Neil Robertson, because if he didn't find himself to be in that position of playing well, then he was always going to struggle, and he didn't really find himself in a position to be playing well. Neither has Zhao Xington to the perfect extent, but one thing that Zhao Xington has done is that he's been winning frames very consistently. Robertson always seemed cursed when he plays Zhao Xington. I wouldn't say always. I mean, he's only played him 3 times. On a serious level, probably only twice. Because I think he probably never heard of the guy in 2019 when he was playing him at the English Open. So it's Shanghai Masters 6-0, which was a horrible loss. And then it's 4-1 now and counting in this match as well. So I think nobody has a good head-to-head stages against Zhao Xington right now. I mean, that's a question for you. Does anyone actually have a positive head-to-head against Zhao Xington? It may be someone like Jordan Brown or Joe Connor that have managed to play once with him and have beaten him in the Home Nations last season. Well, that was ambitious. I mean, I know the previous shot from Robertson was a little bit reckless, but Zhao Xington trying to take a long shot along the cushion was very, very optimistic, especially since he dropped the cue ball to beat in the middle of the table. But, I mean, in relation to the blue ball line, he's still going to be very close to the left side cushion. And I think it might just be down to Robertson having to play a safety shot, which I don't think he's in the mood for now. I think he wants to either win this match or get out of here, to be fair, with the scoreline forcing him to do so. And I think Zhao Xington is going to be in a very similar mindset for a while, because I think every single time he sees a long raid, he's going to go for it, and he knows if he misses it, he's very likely to get another chance, and even if he doesn't get another chance, he's always going to have more frames to try and do something else. And for now, he doesn't have to do anything else. It's a brilliant long raid into the left corner, and I've said that way too many times. All you have to do is switch between left and right corner, and then add Zhao Xington at the end. and you can try and use that as a template for pretty much every single time he plays that long shot with confidence, and he certainly did that on that particular occasion. I just realised Higgins isn't playing the tournament. Yeah, by the way, because I missed out on the start of it, which by the way I want to apologise for, but how many players have we seen withdrawn? How many? Because I counted 6, and I'm not great at counting sometimes. Higgins, Hallworth, this is when I'm going to lose it, Allen, who else are the top 6? There were so many, I forgot half of them already because it was so long ago, but how many players have we genuinely seen to be eliminated? I think there was another one which I might be able to remember, or maybe not. No, sorry. How many players have we genuinely seen to be withdrawn from the tournament? I think they should get a punishment for that. And I know that Ronnie does it, and I'm absolutely saying, get Ronnie punishment as well then. If you withdraw a couple of days from the tournament start, you should get a ban. Not a ban, but you should get a penalty. You should get a penalty because you should have had a guy to be replacing you. I know it's 6. I know it's a minimum of 6. I can't remember 3 more. I know Higgins, Hallworth, and what's his name? Allen, because they're the 3 big guys. I mean, Hallworth was just because he popped up into my head. I don't think anyone else of the top 16. Lisowski was there. Bingham, I think, was there. Yeah, I'm going to have a look if this is not the last frame, and if it is, I'm just going to have to tell you tomorrow. But yeah, I mean, 6 players to be drawn before the tournament starts is not a good look, actually. I might be able to, while Zington is thinking about it, I might just be able to check the schedule of 2 days ago, and then hopefully it will tell me whether I'm right or wrong about it, because there's certainly been so many of the players that it's difficult for you to start counting them. So we've seen, as I say, Mark Allen, we've seen John Higgins, we've seen Oliver Brown, not really someone that I would have remembered. Then we've seen Hallworth, I mentioned, and is that it? I swear there were more than that. Anyway, okay, we've got some of them in, and now we've got a shot from Zhao Xington to be taking, as he now runs himself a little bit wide there. I'll tell you what, Robertson for sure was excited. I know Zhao Xington missed that red, but I mean, fair play to Robertson. He genuinely was about as excited as he could have been, being 4-1 down and 17 points down as well. You can't tell this guy is not trying because he genuinely was jumping away from his seat and absolutely running towards the table, clearly saying, well, I've still got a chance of this one. It was either he clearly didn't feel like he was going to get another chance, or, you know, maybe he's got whole loads of motivation left in him, but problem is, you can have as much motivation as you want. It's not going to help you to overcome a 4-1 lead, although it will help you to do something here, and that something is to try and pot the red into the left corner. Robbie Williams, yes, I remember. I think it was against Mark Williams that he was able to play. Thanks for that. I remember when Joe Connor beat Selby and Selby labelled his performance as pathetic and he was thinking about packing snooker in. He went away and considered his options still go. Yes, I remember that. It was a long time ago, wasn't it? It wasn't, well, I'll say a long time. 2023, something like that? Before that final with Brissell or right after? I remember that story there because I didn't hear of it at the time, but I remember people mentioning it on Eurosport with McManus and Ronnie, I think, or maybe Jimmy White. So, yeah, I mean, it is interesting to see if somebody's like Selby is thinking about it, then what can you think about someone like Wilson? I mean, for example, I think Wilson is probably one of the prime examples for me. 4-1 already. Well, it could have been 5-1 had Zhao Xington not run himself out of position on that red to be taken into the corner, but Robertson is still fighting. But listen, that 4th frame, if you needed any sort of confirmation that mental side of snooker exists, then you should have watched that 4th frame. It was absolutely curtains for Zhao Xington throughout 90% of that frame, but he still managed to come away alive. Robertson there had his heart in the mouth for around 30 seconds there, whilst he was waiting for the cue ball to go towards the left middle, but he stopped in the end, and before reaching the pocket, he would have stopped it even if it reached the pocket as well, but he's still at the table. He's not top side of a blue, which is a problem, but he's not wrong side of a blue, which hopefully will make his life a little bit easier there. So let's have a look how the other quarterfinal is doing. I would expect Xiao Guodong to have won that frame, and he has now. So we'll be down to Zhao Gudong to have a lead of 4 frames to 3. So then, what can Robertson do here? Is he just going to be looking to try and play blue without a realistic chance of getting on the collar? Don't really expect that to be the case, but look at the points. 453 scored for Zhao Xingtong, 160 scored for Robertson. And once again, I always say, usually, you divide your points scored by 100, and that's how many frames you won. So, 160 divided by 100, that's 1.6, which is expected frames to be won there from my personal logic. But of course, it depends on the way that those frames have got. But I don't really think, apart from that 4 frame, we've seen any more close frames. They've all been fairly dominant from Zhao Xingtong's point of view, apart from the one where Robertson managed to win. And yeah, it seems like he's always had that under control, despite not being able to take those chances away first time, which is surprising because that doesn't really make sense. How can you be in complete control of all the frames if you keep wasting opportunities? But that's just been the way that this match has gone there, and every single time Zhao Xingtong has wasted an opportunity, it seems like Robertson was going to let him back in again in no time. And once again, well, listen, Robertson there may be frustrated, but I'll tell you what, son, you should not have cannoned the red as much as you have if you wanted to be nicely lined up on the pink. I don't think it's got anything to do with the table. I think it had everything to do with you being lined up badly enough for the red, so that you had to cannon the cue ball into the second red, which took the sting out of the cue ball. And now you've got a long way to go and a lot of holding to do to keep the white on the red. And I don't think he's done a good job there. He may still be on the red, but I don't think he's going to go for it. Listen, 14 points being the 4th highest break for Neil Robertson probably tells you everything you need to know. And yes, 27 being the 4th highest for Zhao Xingtong is another point there, but I think when you talk about someone like Zhao Xingtong that has got breaks of 91, 106 and 113, I think that does speak for itself. And yeah, you can see Robertson is getting frustrated there. I think he is about to get steam coming out of his ears because he just played a really good shot on the red. But listen, he played a good pot success of a shot. I think he was always going to have the cue ball all over the place, and just because he caught the jaw of the middle that he didn't want, doesn't mean that it's all down to Zhao Xingtong's fault or whatever. So he's going to have to try and do the same thing here, really. But now he gets the cue ball a little bit further to the left, which would help him to get the line up on the red. Zhao versus Zhao semi-final might pack the audience. Well, as we've seen today, it seems like whenever Zhao Xingtong is playing, he's going to pack the audience because, I mean, no disrespect to Robertson, but I think 90% of the fans here are going to be here for Zhao. And I have to say, if I was watching that match, I would be very much there for Zhao as well. But, it's the way it goes. And he's still fighting here, Robertson. He's still got plenty of things to work on. And, yeah, the worst news for him is that he's genuinely making the easy part of the work here in this frame to look like, it's a Hercules job. But still managing to keep himself on the break, although doing that in the worst possible manner. I'll tell you what, he can't seem to string 2 shots there where he doesn't have to get himself out of trouble. Even there, he had a straightforward shot on the blue, and then straight away he overalls the cue ball, leaves him with a straight line on one of the reds, having to bridge over another red as well. At some stage he'll cost him. Don't think he'll cost him here, but it may cost him in the next color. And he decided to try and play for a shot into the middle, which I suppose is a reasonable choice. But once again, it's a bit of a short-term gain, long-term loss, because the pink is going to be simple enough for you, but dragging the cue ball towards the left side of the table to get another red in, which is going to be the last one of the ones that he's got available, is not going to be an easy thing to do, but also he's trying to be a little bit too greedy there with his angle on the pink, and it was always going to cost him at some stage, being out of position all the time. And he has cost him here, not being able to get the pink in towards the middle. And now the gap for Zhao Xingtong is going to be 24 points. And look at that. I mean, I was going to say, look at that. He's made all the difference. He didn't really. But he's made more effort to try and do something with those reds than Robertson has in the last 10 or 12 shots there that he's played. while scoring 41 points. And even though Zhao didn't get the result, he's going to try again. Still doesn't really get the result. But even though he didn't get the result, he's now perfectly positioned for the shot along the side cushion, which doesn't make it an easy thing. But I do fancy him to get this red in, and he does. So being top side of a blue certainly helps. And yeah, still a long way to go here for Zhao, because he's got 3 issues to try and manage here. Well, 2 actually, because the 2 reds next to each other are going to be a one common issue. But he feels that he can get through to the higher one to try and pot into the corner. Snooker, not easy game is something when you're trying hard to make it more difficult. I think it was frustration, I have to say. I think with Robertson, you could see with his body language there. You know, sometimes when he says, I'm entertaining, I'm playing for the fans, there was no smile. There was pure, like, gesturing with his cue, with his hands. The face was just like, I'm fed up with it. Can he just get me out of here? I'm getting no luck at all. And as I say, I think the way that he was playing those shots, I'm not going to say it was out of order, but it was a little bit reckless as well. Because I'm not going to say he was asking for it, but in some way, he was asking for trouble. And, you know, he got it in the end with that shot on the ping. Because, listen, it wasn't easy by any stretch of imagination, but he's only got himself to blame for having to play that shot at all. Neil, not being funny, but you took the brown envelope to lose. Well, let's see. This is now the shot which will win. Zhao's on the match there, you'd feel. And he's got the red in. So, unfortunately, I've got bad news for Neil Robertson fans. I think it is just going to be 1 frame that he wins here. Because, I mean, once again, look at how difficult the position was when Zhao Xington came to the table. And look at how good he managed to look. As soon as he came back to the table, he manages to make it a brilliant clearance of 36 points and counting. He could easily make a total clearance of 60 points, which would be higher than anything that Robertson has managed in the entire match. And he probably sums up there what has been going on. Robertson getting the first chance in the frame, which usually is such a powerful force when you talk about the top players. Getting himself 40 points clear didn't really stop him from losing the frame there, it would seem, and therefore losing the match as well. And Zhao Xington, in no time, has taken all the ball colours. He's now 19 points clear with 18 at the table. And we are going to get 2 players from China in the semi-final. The question is that going to get extended to 3? As you can see, once again, he was close on the pink. But that wasn't the shot which would have determined the win of the match. And now, it will be down to a chance for Zhao Xington to entertain the crowd with a black. And Robertson, clearly, is not going to be in the mood for that. But to be fair, it's a good sportsman there from Robertson, because he still manages to get a smile out of his face, which is going to be very miserable inside. But good sportsmanship there at the end, acknowledging that Zhao Xington was the better player, and he deserves to be the winner of the match today. With a break of 54 points at the end, can he now call the other game? I don't think it's got a long way to go. It may as well, since I think it's going to be over in a couple of moments' time, because Zhao Gudon is now 4-3 ahead of Mark Williams. And I think, yeah, the train that Williams had in the previous... Let's just do a very quick summary, but I will update you on what's happening at the other table. Zhao Gudon is 24 points clear. He doesn't have any more reds available, so he's going to have to try and go into the bunch right now. So let's just keep an eye on this one. 2 cushions. No, just 1 cushion. Plenty of power and very little result. Unlucky there, unless he's got a shot into the middle. He's going to have to be a safety there for Zhao. But yeah, I mean... GG's match, don't think he'll win tournament, but easy today. Interesting comment there, you know, Kevin. You think the Zhao won't win the tournament? I called him, actually, before the tournament started. I called him to win Wuhan. I'm surprised that you say you don't think he's going to win it, because I still think he's been ahead above everybody else. 5-2 against Hawkins, 5-1 against Robertson, 5-0 against Gao Yang. Not too bad for him. Many thanks for this lovely chat. Yeah, thank you very much, everyone, and appreciate especially the moderators there with Kevin and Letitia. Everyone that has been tuning in, feel free to be back tomorrow for the semi-finals. But yeah, I mean, we're just going to leave it there, because I don't really think there is going to be an awful lot to be going on there. But I think the damage, as I say, as I mentioned a couple of times, it was down to the 4 frame, which was the killer for Robertson. If he wins that one, he goes to the intermission having won 2 frames in a row, and it's now 2-all. Instead, it's a 3-1 loss, and he was never the same ever since that point. Let's be fair with ourselves. And yeah, Robertson is still improving. but he's nowhere near the world number 1 material, which, by the way, now cements by at least 10,000 worth of ranking points that Zhao Xington will be, and I think it is game over. Williams just played a horrible safety shot, cannon the cue ball into completely the wrong red, and I think he knows that's now game, set, and match if you are in tennis, or it's a red, black, and match win if you are playing snooker, especially since it's 29 points behind. But yeah, it's a shame for Robertson because I felt like there was a lot more in him, and I think if he wins that 4th frame, he was playing brilliantly at that stage during glimpses. I mean, his long shots were pretty much a match for what Zhao Xington was able to achieve during some glimpses of the match as well, which, you know, it's a shame for Robertson, but it probably sums up the way that he's been playing recently. And yeah, it's all going to be down to an opportunity. We'll see. Yeah, I mean, Kevin, let me know who you think will win then, because for me, it's Zhao Xington, because I think he's got the easier draw. If he gets Williams or Gudon, I mean, both of them are not easy, but I would rather choose between those two than have O'Sullivan that just managed to beat Selby, which came out of nowhere, or Binu that just managed to beat Trump, and obviously at that point would have beaten Ronnie O'Sullivan. So it's going to be very interesting to see what's going to happen. But I would say Xington has got the best chance of winning, but I would love, absolutely love to see the final in between O'Sullivan and Zhao Xington, because I'm never going to be happy when Ronnie loses, but, you know, I am actually going to be pretty happy with me getting that prediction right. Although I suppose predicting that Zhao Xington is going to win the Wuhan Open is a bit like predicting that the green light is going to come after the red and the amber. Anyway, Ronnie winning. Okay, fair play then. Thank you very much for everyone tuning in then, and we'll see you around in the semi-finals of Chang Min-yu and Ronnie O'Sullivan tomorrow in the morning. And of course, Zhao Xington in the old Chinese derby that seems to be imminent, with Xiao Guodong being 43 points clear. He just needs to be taking a little bit of extra care and time there. But feel free to tune in. I mean, what a lineup we have, by the way. Chang Min-yu, the 22-year-old underdog that came out of nowhere last season, managed to get himself into a ranking event final. The greatest of all time, Ronnie O'Sullivan against him. Then we've got Zhao Xington, the king of China right now, displacing Ding at the throne, and then we've got the king of Wuhan being just 10 points or so away from making it 18 matches without a defeat in Wuhan Open. I mean, I tell you what, if you're gonna say Zhao Xington is gonna win easily, I don't think you know Xiao Guodong very well. And one thing I would say about Zhao Xington, he needs to play well against Xiao, because I think that will be his biggest test. Well, that's a horrible way to mess up the position there. I mean, Xiao may have got a little bit nervous. Certainly going to be fist bumping the table there. But once he tries to sort that out, as I say, it's going to be the end for today. Thank you again for watching. It's been 2 great matches, a little bit one-sided with Xington against Robertson, but plenty more action to come as we get 3 or the 4 semi-finalists, and Xiao Guodong seems to have 1 hand on the semi-final place as well. Thank you for watching, everyone, and stay tuned in. Be back tomorrow for more action of the semi-final. Stay tuned in, and thanks for watching once again.
Suck me in smoke, breathe me in and let me go. Filling the lungs inside you, and the blackened eyes make my way into your mind. Just to know what you knew. Restless every time we start locking eyes. Lost control. Oh, it's paradise with honesty, but I'm in the dead of the night. Let the darkness take control. Take me in the smoke, breathe me in and let me go. Sink to your heart to find you. Open up your eyes till you're blinded by the lies, so you can see what you do. Restless every time we start locking eyes. Lost control. Oh, it's paradise with honesty, but in the dead of the night, teardrops on